Good evening, members and guests. Welcome to this summertime meeting. You'd all rather be here than outside, I'm sure, but we'll be as quick as we can. Can we have apologies, please?
Councillor Prue Bray, Councillor Pauline Hellier-Simons, Councillor Graham Howe, Councillor Diane King, Councillor Oliver Whittle, Councillor Tahir Mahir, Councillor Jim Fruin.
Minutes of the previous meeting. Can I confirm that the minutes are a true record of that meeting and that I am able to sign them as such? Is everybody? Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. Are there any members who need to declare an interest in any of the subjects tonight? No. Very good. Okay, come on to Mayor's announcements. Just I'll just mention this for the benefit of some of our newer members who may not have been aware that we have Mayor's Awards. Our past Mayor, John Kaiser, introduced the Mayor's Awards. This is awarded to individuals or groups who have made an outstanding contribution in the borough, which improves the lives of those living here. And this is something that I would like to continue, and for that reason I am delighted to be able to award 3 honours this evening. The first honours that I would be pleased to award is to the Early Air Cadet Staff Team. The staff team is made up of 10 unpaid and unrewarded volunteers who constantly give up their time to develop, train and work with over 40 young people from around the borough, ages between 12 and 20. Some of the invaluable skills they teach are first aid, teamwork, survival skills, cooking, presentation skills, leadership, independence and so much more. But not only do the staff give their time up for these young people, they also frequently help out at local events around the borough. The team also help at other events like the Woodley and Early Lions firework display, Remembrance Sunday, and money collections for various charities. These amazing individuals do all this noble work for the communities within the borough and have never received any real recognition for all the good works that they do. So it gives me great pleasure to be able to award the certificates and to our member from Early Cadets. Thank you. The second award that gives me great pleasure to present is to Emma Barden, Claire Reevy and Sharon Bailey from the Norris Church. Many people within the Norris community experience barriers to local activities and services due to affordability and perhaps poor transport links. This link of access increases the lack of aspirations to integrate with the wider community and reinforces insular attitudes. Due to ill health, the Community Engagement Officer has been able to carry out her role. Emma Barden and the volunteers from the Norris Church very kindly stepped in to provide their support and time to run the Community Cafe, the 50s Plus lunch, After School Kids Club and the Ladies Drop-In. Without their support, these sessions could not have continued. Due to staff shortages within the team, and many people would have missed out on this vital link in the community. So again, it gives me great pleasure to award the Mayor's Awards to you. Thank you very much.
trying to get out of camera.
Our third award goes to Derek Davis. Derek, unfortunately, isn't with us this evening, but the award will be handed to him privately, but nevertheless, it's still as important that we do recognise the work that he's done. We have been lucky to have Derek Davis, one of the early environmental group members, to take on the job of refurbishing the two artistically illustrated notice boards, one describing the origin and history of Early in Lower Early Meadows, and another on the side of Rushy Way in the Loddon River Park area. These were badly corroded and dirty. He has also replaced the plywood backing, and Derek from Early is a man of remarkable talent. He has worked without any charge for his time, which must have been quite considerable. He had to take the signs down, and then they were redirected with the help of Anne and John Booth, also members of the Early Environmental Group. He then worked on them at home, making all the purchases himself. They now look deserving of their place for local walkers to read and are again part of Early's history. So again, I will present his award to him privately, but nevertheless, a very worthy cause. Thanks very much. We come on now to the public question time. We have 30 minutes allowed for this. Supplementaries are allowed. A reminder that the supplementary questions must relate either to the original question or the responses that are given to that question. So can I remind the executive members that responses to questions must be no longer than 2 minutes, and these will be timed. Be warned. So can I first of all invite Alex Davis to ask his question?
Yeah, I don't think Alex Davis is here.
He's not here, so
we'll get a written response.
Alex Davis isn't here, so he will get a written response from the appropriate executive member. John Walker is going to ask his question of Pauline Jorgensen. John is asking this on somebody else's behalf, I believe, and therefore there will not be a supplementary question. So could I ask John Walker to give his question? Is John Walker here?
Hello. Hi, my name is Joseph. This is the very first time I've ever done this, so please bear with me. Thank you very much for allowing me the time to do this. Okay, so this is a question to Pauline Jorgensen, Executive Member of Highways and Transport. It's relating to, so it's following the cancellation of the East Reading Mass Rapid Transit Scheme, the Thames Valley Park and Ride site would seem to be unnecessary, but there is still construction activities on the site. Would Wokingham Borough Council pause the construction activity on the site in order to consider the use of a trial park and ride service, making use of one of the currently unused office car parks on the Thames Valley Park site? This would make it possible to assess the likely level of take-up and whether the business case still holds good in the light of the operational costs that were not originally included.
Thank you for your question, Joseph. Thames Valley Park and Ride was awarded funding by the Thames Valley Local Enterprise Partnership based on a business case which didn't include the East Reading MRT project, which I must also say as a local member I objected to at the time, the project. Whilst this project would have added to the benefits of the Park and Ride, there are sufficient benefits without it to progress the scheme in the knowledge that it will provide value for money. The main objective of the scheme is to reduce congestion on the A4 corridor. The Park and Ride will provide car parking spaces in an alternative travel choice for residents around Woking Borough to access Reading Town. The site will be served using the existing shuttle buses used by employees at the Thames Valley Park, utilising the spare space that they have on the way back to the station after they've dropped people off. So that makes a good, sensible use of the bus and means that they're going with people in it both directions, so hopefully will be greener. With regard to using private land, it's not within our gift, unfortunately, as to what land we use. The site we are currently constructing is one that we own. In addition, the option of trialling the use of the existing business car park capacity was investigated at the time and discounted in the options appraisal in 2017. Any trial ahead of completing the final park and ride project would therefore be a costly duplication, even if it were possible to obtain the currently vacant site. Work on the site is well progressed and we expect a completion in autumn, and we really do hope it will improve the amount of people using buses going backwards and forwards to Reading.
Thank you very much. Could I ask John Mullaney to ask his question of Pauline Jorgensen, please?
Thank you. In the full business case for the park and ride at Broken Brow, which was submitted to the Berkshire Local Transport Board, there were no operational costs included. This was brought to the attention of the BLTB in a report considered at the meeting of the BLTB, at which the business case was approved. The answer to the reason why there were no operational costs was that they would fall to the operator. So can it be clarified, will Wokingham Borough Council have operational responsibilities for the site? And what is the operational budget that has been projected for the site? And what is the envisaged scope that this budget will cover?
Thank you for your question, John. Yes, Woking Borough will be operating the car park, which means managing the day-to-day operations and maintaining its entirety, including the lighting, drainage and ticketing systems. Income from the parking will be used to pay for that, as well as contributing to the bus service. It's currently projected that even with a relatively low usage, the car park will cover its own costs, and with a high use, it would actually generate income for the council.
Thank you for that answer. I would say, why not save on the cited operational costs and reassess the site, which is currently only at the drainage installation phase? There is a growing cross-party concern that this development will become another insufficiently scrutinised and consequently derelict park and ride facility in the wrong location. Why not consider any number of alternative uses more appropriate to a riverside location than a derelict car park? Save Our Ancient Riverside have received many suggestions from concerned Wokingham and Reading residents that we would be happy to share. Will this council demonstrate to their residents that they are a council on board with the climate emergency and that they are committed to protecting the environment? And will they agree to meet with Save Our Ancient Riverside to consider alternative uses and a reappraisal of this development before it is too late and this green space is squandered and lost forever?
Thank you for that follow-up. I think I answered part of it in the previous answer, in that the work is well underway and that we don't have the access to the other land that might be appropriate. However, I'm always willing to meet SOAR. I went to your public meeting when you were objecting to the MRT, and I certainly would be happy to speak to you about ideas you've got.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a question from Mr. Alexander Smith, who is not here this evening, and the question will be asked on his behalf. Again, there will be no supplementary to this question. So could I ask the person who's going to ask the question to stand, please?
Yep. In the draft SEN strategy, the council states that it will identify need as early as possible. We have parents here tonight who have been waiting longer than the statutory 20 weeks for a draft plan. And the Ofsted report states that staff shortages are impeding the timely delivery of plans. What steps have the council identified to address this unacceptable solution?
Thank you for your question on behalf of Alexander Smith. The answer is that we have difficulties recruiting experienced SEN case managers. It's not a Wokingham problem, it's a nationwide problem. So how are we addressing it? Well, extra funding has been made available to the council for recruitment. We are in touch with a recruitment agency who is specializing in recruiting such experienced staff. And we've had some success. And we are hopeful that it won't be long before we will be able to meet the deadline of 20 weeks.
Do you have a supplementary? Oh, sorry, there is no supplementary on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All children with special needs require intervention as early as possible in order to achieve the best possible outcome. In the case of ASD families, are waiting in excess of 12 to 18 months and beyond just to receive an initial assessment. This has a huge negative impact on children's ability to learn and their self-confidence as they fall further behind peers. What is the Council doing in order to reduce this waiting time?
Thank you for your question. The answer is the same as I have already given to Alexandra Smith's question.
Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do, Mr Mayor, thank you. The member for Coronation, Councillor Keith Baker, recently stated on a Wokingham residents' Facebook group in response to a question on the housing consultation that, and I quote, £80,000 is actually a drop in the ocean for both the overall expenditure of the Council and the cost of action to address the SEND issues. Therefore, given that £80,000 is considered a drop in the ocean, can the Council fund measures to immediately begin to reduce the backlog in assessments, both for ASD cases and for SEND applications?
I'm afraid that is not a follow-up to your question. That is a new question and it can't be answered.
Thank you. Can I ask Ruth Ray to ask her question of Eula Green-Clark, please?
Some parents are having to seek legal aid in order to challenge decisions made by the Council on EHCP requests. This is both costly and stressful for parents. National figures show that the vast majority of appeals are decided against councils. Are the Council using the rejection of SEND provision as a cost-cutting measure?
The answer is no. I can assure you that that is not the case. We are committed to meet our legal duties and obligations in accordance with the Children's Act 2014. What has happened in the last year is an increase, it's about 15% in the need for education, health and care plans. And in addition to what I have already said tonight, this has caused a problem which we are working very hard to solve.
Do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you. A freedom of information request is in place to gather the information from Wokingham Borough Council on the number of appeals and the number lost, as well as the amount spent. However, the aggregate figure shows that in 2016-17, councils nationally spent £28.2 million on such tribunals and lost in 89% of cases. Does the Council accept that the rejection of EHCPs that are subsequently overturned on an appeal are a waste of taxpayers' money, causing unnecessary stress on families and children, and prevent children from achieving the best possible outcome?
As I've already stated, we are doing our very best to provide these plans for the children as quickly as possible. And we are aware that we are so far not being able to fulfill the commitments of 20 weeks. But we are working on it. We do understand how difficult it is and how stressful it is for parents and for children. And you have to believe me when I'm saying that we are doing our utmost to sort out this very unfortunate situation.
Thank you. Could I ask Marcus McDowell to ask his question to Eula Green-Clark, please?
Thank you, Mayor. According to the Ofsted report, several parents described an inequitable system where some access private assessments because of lengthy delays, while others are not able to do this. How does the Council justify discriminating against children from less wealthy backgrounds in this manner?
We do not, and I repeat, we do not discriminate against anyone. A private assessment does not give anyone more or quicker access to an assessment. The assessment is done by the staff at Wokingham Borough Council. Everyone is being treated the same.
Do you have a supplementary?
I do. Thank you for the response. I'd like to say that is not true. I know from speaking to parents that they have paid to get assessments to fill in the child psychologist reports and to get occupational therapist reports, which could be provided by council funding. I would like you to please look at this and say how you would be able to help people from less wealthy families access the same care and support as those from wealthy families.
I'm not privy to the information. I am not privy to that information you have just given, and obviously it will have to be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I ask Juliet Sherratt to ask her question of Eula Green-Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the Wokingham Facebook group, Ulla Karen Clark, the Conservative member for Embrook, commented that Woking Borough Council are trying to find a suitable location to build an additional school for the provision of special needs education. In this comment, she mentioned that funding is an issue. How does the Council prioritise funding for children and young adults with special needs and disabilities when it's able to find £80,000 to fund a consultation on housing in the borough?
Mr. Mayor, I'll take that one if you like. Good evening, my name is John Kaiser. I'm the member for Finance. I mean, these aren't competing demands. The Council needs to ensure that there's adequate provision available for children and that have additional needs. Funding is prioritised so the authority meets its statutory duty and obligations. Where there are needs, the Council will do all it can to ensure the needs are met. Children are an ongoing priority for this Council, and we do all we can to ensure that all children grow up happy and healthy. The housing numbers are a major concern of many residents in the borough, and by making sure we have housing numbers which are defendable appeal, we save the Council hundreds of thousands of pounds and protect the borough from opportunist developers using complexities which exist in the planning system around housing numbers. Showing we have the support of our residents in this quest to ensure we have the right housing numbers is important as we negotiate with government to ensure we get numbers which are sustainable and meet the borough's needs. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going back to the earlier quote from the member for Coronation regarding the splash in the ocean, why does the Council consider that there's plenty of money for both the housing consultation and addressing the SEND crisis, and yet cannot find the money to fund a desperately needed facility for the provision of SEND education?
I'll answer your question with a question. Do you think that there's anybody in this room that would rather spend money on potholes than disadvantaged children? Or anything else for that matter? I can assure you we wouldn't. The truth is we have to do everything. We don't have a choice. Okay. And at the end of the day, we have a very limited budget. And everybody's heard, we are one of the lowest funded authorities in the country. But no, children do take priority.
I don't know if you are not aware, but we are extending Addington with 50 places. And we are looking at providing a site so we can build another Addington. We are not ignoring you or your children. And there will be money provided for a new school once we have allocated a site. And we will get help from the Department of Education.
Thank you very much. That ends the public question time. Those who have asked questions, of the public who have asked questions, are free to leave at this stage. And if you wish to do so, if you would leave now, you can go to the public gallery to listen to the rest of the debates. Thank you very much. Right, we come on to petitions. Do we have any petitions? Yes, Imogen, thank you very much. If you'd like to present your petition.
Good evening, everybody. My petition here is from the residents of Tanhill Lane. The residents of Tanhill Lane have been suffering greatly from a row of 17 asbestos-filled garages on their street that are slowly collapsing. In addition to their structural problems, these garages are littered with fly-tip rubbish, overgrown with weeds, and home to a multitude of undesirable pests such as rats. There has been repeated requests to Woking Borough Council for help, to which there has been very little response. In fact, the only response has been to persuade the owner to fence off the area because of the collapsing building. In the meantime, fly tipping has increased, and there has been no attempt to clear the site of asbestos and rubbish. The weeds have grown to over 9 feet tall and are encroaching into the neighbouring gardens. The garages were clearly built to provide parking for the residents in this area. Most of the homes here do not have any off-road parking. So due to the unavailability of the garages, residents are forced to park along the road and along the verges. This has created massive problems with access to the site for waste collection lorries and other such vehicles. Parking around here is actually pretty atrocious. Residents have been getting lots of parking tickets because they've absolutely nowhere else to park. The owner of the garages has repeatedly submitted planning applications to build housings on this site, and since at least 2005, these applications have been repeatedly turned down. Any additional housing on this street would be an absolute disaster for the current residents who are in desperate need of parking spaces that these garages occupy. On speaking to them, many of them would be happy to rent the spaces if they were available to rent. In the meantime, it feels like that they're being held to ransom by the owners of the garages, who have left them to rot with no thought of the people living on the street, just because they think they can make a lot more money by building houses here. Townhouse Lane is the first street along Barkham Road that does not have any kind of parking permit scheme. This is from the station. This has meant that the problems with parking is made worse by additional cars parking for the station and the town. Residents would also like to have parking permit schemes so they can be protected from additional cars using this road. The residents have been battling with this situation for years now, and quite frankly, they're tired of being ignored. They are now demanding, for the sake of their health and well-being, that Woking Borough Council uses its powers of enforcement to get a court order and have the garages demolished, the site cleaned up and cleared of rubbish, and the asbestos removed. If the land was available to them, as I said, many residents would be happy to rent the spaces for their cars, which is what its intended purpose was. On that note, I'm going to give you the petition that they have all signed.
That will be handed to the appropriate officer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. No.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I think, Mr. Mayor, I think I indicated I have a petition.
Oh, sorry. Yes, that's right. Yes, sorry. Would you like to present your petition?
Thank you very much. I'm presenting a petition relating to Twyford Ward, and it reads as follows. We, the undersigned, call on Wokingham Borough Council to introduce residents-only parking arrangements for Ruscombe Road, Twyford. Most residents in Ruscombe Road have no off-street parking and have to compete for parking spaces outside their homes with commuters using the nearby station. Now, I should say as background that I've submitted a request through the Council's formal procedures for a traffic regulation order to address this problem. So this petition, I think, should be viewed as local support for that request.
To hand the petition, it will be handed to the appropriate officer. Thank you very much. We now come on to the pay policy statement, which is pages 29 to 40 in the agenda pack. And who is to propose this? John Horsall, sorry.
I hope everybody's read the report, and I'd just like to propose a recommendation to approve the draft pay policy for 2019-20 for publication on the Council's website in accordance with the Localism Act 2011.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder?
Yes, I'm seconding that, Mr. Mayor, and I support John and the policy. Thank you.
Very much. Would you like to speak on the... No, you're quite happy to go. Okay. And would the seconder like to speak? No, that's fine. So, does anybody else wish to speak on this? Yeah, we have Andy Croy and... Yeah, we've got... Okay. Councillor Andy Croy. Yep, Rachel, yes. Ladies first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry to see that there's no mention of gender pay in this policy statement. While I understand it's not a legal requirement to include this information, this council has a gender pay gap of 14%. This is 7% higher than the local authority average and 11% higher than neighbouring Reading Borough Council, which is under 3%. The median gender pay gap is even worse. That stands at 26%. It's clearly unacceptable that the average pay for men in this council is 13% higher than the average pay for women. When announced, the lead member at the time, Anthony Pollock, called for a shift in society to tackle the gap, blaming it on part-time workers. However, if you look closer, the pay gap for full-time employers is still a massive 12%, which is actually higher than the national average. The only way to really resolve such a gap is to proactively put measures in place to close it. These are exactly the kind of measures I would expect to be referenced in the pay policy.
Thank you very much. Councillor Croy.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to repeat what Councillor Burgess has said, but obviously she's absolutely right. I just would like to make the point that I think I made a similar but less well-developed point at the previous time we voted on this policy, and I just don't understand why we don't use this opportunity to reference our gender pay gap. It's not, you know, the information's there, we should be displaying it. I appreciate it's not a legal requirement, but that doesn't mean that we can't do it. So for the second or third time, can you please make sure we include gender pay gap information on our pay policy statement? Thank you.
Councillor Pauline Jorgensen.
It's a comment, really. Very interesting comments about the gender pay gap. But I think if you look at the array of senior officers we've got in front of us and the mix of females and males, you'll see that this council and the permanent staff are very committed to women getting the best opportunity and getting the best jobs that they're capable of.
Councillor Halsall. Is this your right of reply? Or
Mr Mayor, I would just say that the gender pay policy is not relevant to this statement because a separate report goes to the Personnel Board on gender pay policy in accordance with the law anyway.
That was your reply, right of reply, was it? It was. Thank you very much. So now we are this, and the recommendation is that the Council approve the draft pay policy statement of 2019-20 for publication on the Council's website in accordance with the Localism Act of 2011. Those in favour? Those against? And those abstaining? Thank you very much. We come on to item 22, changes to the Constitution, which is pages 41 to 78 in the agenda pack. This is to be proposed by, do we have a proposer? Yes, Chris Smith, Councillor Chris Smith. And seconded, do you have a seconder?
Yes, I do.
John Kaiser. Okay, thank you. Right. Would the proposer like to make a statement, please? Oh,
only to say these are the...
Sorry. Councillor Croy.
Thank you. Could I just ask that when it comes to the voting on this, that we actually do it section by section, rather than for the whole part of this motion, because there's bits of it we agree with, there's bits of it we don't agree with, and we'd like to highlight that in our voting. Thank you.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
Just to say that this is our normal kind of little bits of tidying up here and there, and it's already been through the constitutional working group. Anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
No, not at this moment, Mayor.
I'd just like to say one thing with the changes to the political makeup of the groups that we're changing with this change, is that if we could get an annual report on what the political makeup of each of the meetings was. This is for licensing and appeals, and so that we could actually every year assess, have we been politically balanced or not? Because I understand that the change is really to cover emergency situations, and we want to be sure that that's what it's kept for.
To Councillor Smith on that one, if you would, please.
I'd say it's not really something that we can force, but I'm sure that the Chairman of Licensing and Appeals will now remember to include it in his annual or her annual report, whoever that is.
Does anybody else wish to speak on this? Councillor Croy, and we'll take Councillor Rachel Burgess first, as being the gentleman that I am now.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a few brief comments on the removal of the requirement for licensing subcommittees to be politically balanced. This is basically to make it easier to establish those committees as and when required. But I think there should be no reason why the relevant politically balanced panel cannot be found, especially with the current makeup of the council. I understand that political bias can sometimes be hard to evidence, but to simply say, as I've heard some Conservative councillors say, that these subcommittees are simply not political is naive, in my opinion, and I think that it's not good enough. So for these reasons, we'll be voting against that part of the changes to the Constitution.
Thank you very much. Councillor Croy, did you wish to speak?
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on, and it'll be no surprise to anybody, on the section of members' allowances, just to reiterate that this change to the timing of the review of members' allowances is going to look absolutely terrible. The way this new timing is going to come about is that there will be a vote on the allowances. You guys will do what you normally do, vote yourself for a rise in the allowances, and then the next year there won't be elections. It is going to look terrible. Okay? And you have to keep in mind that you're spending taxpayers' money. Austerity isn't over, it's still here. People won't understand why there's a vote for increased allowances, and they really won't understand why they don't get to pass some sort of judgment on you at the ballot box. So just to reiterate, we're opposed to this change.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lindsay Ferris.
Thank you. Throughout the last year, when we only had a smaller number of councillors, to manage to keep the political balance on the licensing subcommittees, I had to go on 9 of the 11 subcommittees, one of which lasted 5.5 hours. And I saw Democratic Services trying to organise emergency meetings of the licensing and subcommittee at very short notice, and some which have to be held at a particular time, and trying to get people to stand. Now, the reason for that change of the balance of the licensing appeals is not a political one, because we have agreement from the Democratic Services that they will try to make it a political balance, if at all possible, and only in an emergency would they adhere to anything else. And I think that is what we're trying to do, and that is the issue, and I think that is what it's from. It's not on a political reason. I saw Lucienne of the Democratic Services pulling her hair out trying to get it, and eventually I said, OK, I'll do it, and I did a 9, and I think that was where I wanted to do it. It needs to be spread around, and that's where it's coming from. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chris Bowring.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I appreciate very much Councillor Ferris's comments. Those of us who actually serve on these subcommittees do know that they are not party political in any way, and that was the general tone of the Licensing and Appeals meeting which I chaired last month. And I know the Labour Party finds party politics in everything, but in this instance I think they're way off beam. It is exactly as Lindsay says, we try hard to get the balance, but sometimes it's very difficult and just impractical, and these appeals do have to go ahead. They're very, very important. This is a very sensible way forward.
Sorry, can I come back to you in a minute, Chris?
You'd like to apply. Like to apply.
Talking about the reason for licensing and appeals now, because we're getting into a detailed conversation there. Okay, so licensing and appeals, there is no legal requirement for these appeal subcommittees to be balanced. We had an issue where Councillor Ferris has stepped up to the mark and really helped everybody out by doing this. But if we do not have politically balanced licensing and appeals committees, we open up the council to risk, and therefore we are removing it from our constitution to protect the council. During meetings, it has always been emphasised, if we can do this, we will be making them politically balanced, but it is just removing one sentence to protect this council.
Thank you. Councillor Emma Hobbs.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's all right. The question was answered by Chris.
Thank you very much. Chris, do you wish to reply at this stage now?
all the necessary replies, other than to point out to Councillor Croy that at the last set of member allowances reviews, the Conservative and Liberal Democrat groups voted against increases in basic allowance. The Conservatives and Liberal Democrat groups voted against an increase to the Leader of the Council's allowances, and also against increases on planning. And therefore, it is not just the Labour Party members who do. We all know our duties, and we all make sure in this council that we are spending money effectively and as well as we can.
Yeah, sorry, I think I've missed the seconder. I don't know whether the seconder wishes to speak on this.
Only to say, Mr. Mayor, that these are just common sense changes. I mean, say we sit here arguing about political nuances, but these are common sense changes to make life easier for members who give up their time for this council.
Thank you very much. With the request by Councillor Andy Croy, we need to vote on each individual aspect of this recommendation. So, starting first of all with section A, that section 2.2 members' allowances scheme be amended as set out in the... Point one. Oh, sorry, I missed point one. Yeah, one. Agree that the requirement of the Licensing and Appeals Subcommittee to be politically balanced be removed. Those in favour? Thank you. Those against? And are there any abstentions? So that is carried. Thank you very much. 2, agree the following changes to the Constitution as recommended by the Constitution Review Working Group. Section... We'll wait for Mr. Councillor Bath to take his urgent call. Thank you. Right, we go back to A, section 2.2, members' allowances scheme be amended as set out in Appendix 1 to the report. Those in favour of that, please show. We need a count on that. Yeah. We've got, I think we're okay. Can we do those against? And those abstaining? It's carried. Thank you. Item C, which is the section 4.4, the Woking and Barrow... Oh, sorry, no, missed one, haven't I? Section B, that section 4211, timing and order of business at the annual council, be amended as set out in paragraphs 2 and 3 of the report. All those in favour? That looks pretty unanimous to me. Is there any against? No, so that's carried. Thank you very much. Section 4.4, Woking and Borough Wellbeing Board, be amended as set out in Appendix 2 to the report. Those in favour? I think that's unanimous. Any against? No. Thank you very much. Section 8.4.10, Licensing and Appeals Subcommittee Procedure Rules be amended as set out in paragraph 5 of the report. Those in favour? Those against? 4 against. Any abstentions? That's carried. No, that's carried. And finally, section 12.110, Insurance Risk and Opportunity Management, be amended as set out in Appendix 3 to the report. Those in favour? That looks unanimous. Any against? Any abstentions? No, that is carried. Thank you very much. Right, we now come on to item 23, appointment of the substitute member on the Thames Valley Police and Crime Panel. Do we have a proposer for this? Yes, Councillor Halsall.
So it's a very simple proposal, the appointment of a substitute member to the Thames Valley Police and Crime Panel, and our nomination is for Emma Hobbs.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder for that, Councillor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to second that.
Thank you very much. Are there any other nominations? Councillor Ferris? Thank you very much. So do you have a seconder?
I'm happy to second, thank you.
Thank you very much. So we need to vote on this, and I will start, and we'll do this in alphabetical order. So those in favour of Councillor Emma Hobbs being appointed to this position, please show. Okay. Those in favour of Councillor Clive Jones, please show. Councillor Emma Hobbs has been appointed as the substitute member on the Thames Valley Police and Crime Panel. Thank you very much. We now come on to members' question time. I will invite Councillor Pauline Jorgensen to ask her question of Councillor Parry Bath.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Parry, for responding to residents' concerns with regards to the area of land in my ward known as Area DD, which I've been fighting to protect as a natural green space. Is it possible to protect the area for future generations?
I'd love to say yes. And as you know, Pauline, the Council's assets play a very important role within the organisation by creating capital value for the benefit of all the residents, of which Area DD is but one, and these assets which are becoming increasingly important in the current difficult financial situation. Having said that, whilst the site is included within our local plan for mixed-use development, I have persuaded the Executive to hold this site as we consider a new council-wide housing strategy to run from 2019 to 2024. In addition to this, site is located in an area of high urban development and provides an additional area of undeveloped green space, which is valued by our residents, and hence my persuasion. That is not to say that future developments of the site will not occur. This could take place any form, such as leisure, retail, or much-needed housing, and as the current executive member, it is not possible for me to say what future decision may or may not be made by members of any future administration. But I'm sure this will only be done in conjunction with a full consultation of residents and other interested parties.
Do you have a supplementary question?
I do. Thank you. I'm glad you recognise Area DD as a valuable green space in a built-up area and a haven for wildlife. This site was first considered for development many years ago, and I understand that you feel you can't bind future administrations, especially those of a different political hue. However, I'm not entirely satisfied with the position. Pardon? Well, you were chairman of the council when it was last positioned for a development. However,
can we have just
however,
allow her to...
Sorry, I will
Councillor
retract that.
Ferris.
He was chairman of the committee. His name was on the document. However, anyway, I'm not entirely satisfied with the position. I have talked to hundreds of my residents, and they've all been clear with me that the overwhelming view is they'd like this area to remain as a green haven for wildlife. I would welcome your support and advice as to how we might achieve that, Parry.
Thank you for that supplementary, Pauline. As I say, whilst this administration is in charge, I will do all my best to support you.
Thank you very much. Can I ask Councillor Gary Cowan to ask his question of Parry Bath?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to ask the question standing in my name.
Thank you, Gary, for that question. The decision to approve this tree works application was not based upon a survey provided by the applicant, but the professional assessment of the council's senior tree officer assesses, which includes a site visit. The assessment informs her decision, which is given in the decision letter. The tree officer's comments are not always included in the decision letter, but often are. In this instance, a removal of trees covered by the TPO 1449/2012 was on health and safety grounds.
The birch, T6, had a large main stem cavity with extensive decay. The target, had the tree failed catastrophically, was a domestic garden. T7, another birch, had excessive lean towards the adjacent property, and the root plate had started to lift with fresh soil cracking around it. Again, the target was a domestic garden. The Council will in the future ensure that the phrase removal consented on health and safety grounds is included in the decision letter where appropriate. The goat willows on site, some of which were subject to the application, would not have been present at the time of the TPO and therefore not covered by the area TPO. They were included in the approval order to make the extent of the works clear to the applicant and the public. The tree works applications are also online, and councillors are sent a hard copy in the internal mail. Records on Civica from the registration team indicate that the relevant councillor and the PC, Parish Council, were sent a record of this application on 30th of April 2019, and the decision letter was issued on the 6th of June. In addition...
Councillor Bath, could you summarise now? Your time is up.
I've done so already. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cowan, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I do. I have had no record of a correspondence concerning the TPO, nor, to my knowledge, have any of the neighbours, so I would question that point. I did ask the three officer survey, which was the eventual reply was that the decision letter does not always include one, as the executive member did say. But without having any records of this, how can we have checks and balances as to what is and what's none? More critically, the decision letter to the tree surgeon states that to prune trees T1, T2 and 3, all protected trees to protect the sunlight and aesthetics. And this is on private trees on private land. So my concern is, if the reason to prune trees on private land, what hope has the Council got to deliver on its climate emergency when it approves the pruning of TPO trees for aesthetic reasons?
Councillor Cowan,
somebody else's
do you
land?
have a question?
Yes,
I
I have no idea what has been pruned or cut down, but I do know it was done in the bird nesting season, which goes on to the end of the
Thank you very much.
Can I ask if the Council will revisit the site as soon as possible and establish what trees have been cut down, what have been pruned, establish why it was done in bird nesting season, and let me know, please.
Thank you.
Yes, I can do that. No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask Rochelle Shepherd-Jubay to ask a question of Gregor Murray, please?
What are we doing for the climate emergency? Are we planning on putting solar panels on all the council buildings, including the affordable housing, whose residents can least afford to pay their bills, and new schools, which are very poorly funded? If not, why not?
Mr Mayor, my colleague Councillor Graham Howe has been working on a solution to precisely this question for just under a year. As a result of the dedicated work of Councillor Howe and the Council officers in identifying suppliers and partners, I'm delighted to announce today that yes, we will be seeking to install ethically manufactured solar panels and potentially other alternative energy generating devices onto the roofs of the borough's schools, leisure centres, libraries and some other suitable council-owned properties starting during the next school year. I must stress that this is not the work of an instant. There are many technical hurdles that have to be overcome when pairing state-of-the-art energy generating equipment with some of our schools, many of which are many decades old, and taking into consideration the fact that it's electricity near our children. I will not commit to when installation work will begin, but I will keep all members up to date on when that's going to happen. I'm also pleased to announce that our ambition is that once all costs have been taken into account, any cost savings or profits from selling energy to the national grid will be passed back to individual schools to supplement their discretionary budget. We estimate that as a result of these programmes, with energy accounting for almost 6% of most schools' annual budgets, there will be a saving of potentially up to 25%. Our priority will be to ensure that the council run and maintain schools are included in this scheme first. We also seek to make this available to the borough's academies. As this initiative is for the benefit of our children across Woking Borough Council and also aligns with policy stated by other parties, we ask for their support in this.
Thank you very much. Do you have a supplement? Do you have a supplementary?
Well, thank you very much for doing something that is very much at the heart of the Liberal Democrats as well. But we also want to know, are you planning to do any new technologies such as heat exchange or something like this?
We will be looking at all forms of alternative energy generation. So there are many, many new technologies that are coming online every single day. Unfortunately, although this problem is decades old, some of the technology is still in its infancy, so we'll need to be able to assess it against a set of criteria that we have not yet created in order to be able to understand whether it will generate the type of energy versus the cost of installation. But we will look at all options in terms of alternative generation of energy. We will report back to all members shortly.
Thank you very much. Can I ask David Hare, Councillor David Hare, to ask his question of Parry Bath?
I'd like to ask the question standing in my name.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, David. Outside of the context of a planning application, the Council is not able to monitor the felling of trees on private land or to enforce replacing planting unless the trees are covered by a tree preservation order. It is very rare for the Council to grant a planning consent where the number of trees lost exceed those proposed for planting. Indeed, in the vast majority of the cases, the number of trees planted vastly exceeds those that are lost. Whilst it would be difficult to provide a definite answer on numbers of trees planted, it is worth noting that the Council has secured the planting of approximately 45,000 trees, new trees, on the 11 SANGs that have been completed so far in the borough. Rook's Nest, 10,000. Brookhurst, 6,500. Kentwood Meadows, 5,500. Old Forest Road Meadows, 2,500. Hazelbrook Meadows, 2,500. Shinfield Sangs, 3,000. Eldridge Park, 4,000. Keep Hatch Meadows, 11,000. Altogether, 45,000 new trees will be planted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you. That's very positive and that's a good thing, but we must go on planting trees. For every tree you cut down, which is, say, 50 years old, you have to plant at least 10 trees. You have to plant at least 10 trees to make up for the carbon that will come into the atmosphere because the old tree is cut down. And this is the problem. It isn't a one for one, a new for old. You have to plant more trees. Will the council endeavour to plant many more trees because of that situation?
Can I pass that? It's leaning on the environmental side. Can I ask Gregor to go?
Mr. Mayor, the short answer is yes. The slightly longer answer is I've already made contact with several different agencies and well-known charities who will hopefully be able to support us in planting more trees.
Thank you very much. Can I ask Councillor Ian Pittock to ask his question of Wayne Smith, please?
Thank you. Regarding the housing consultation, I am sure that we all wish there to be as large a response as possible. I understand with some relief that responses are flooding in, at least from the report I got about a week ago. There has, however, been some noise around concerning the lateness of delivery of letters to residents and other time-related issues. Can you please confirm the latest date by which residents can respond to the consultation? And I'm trying to give you a hook here to give us a general update, if you wish. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Yes, and I do appreciate your concern of trying to make sure that we get as many people to respond as possible. Residents have until the 23rd, which is next Wednesday, We've extended it by a day to allow extra to come in by the Wokingham Community Forum. We had another successful forum last night in Shinfield, but you'll be pleased to know that we have well over 40,000 people that have already responded, and that it's uniform across the borough, so everything is going well.
Do you have a supplementary question? No, thank you. Sorry, could I ask Caroline to ask a question? Thank you.
Hello. The early residents and councillors were extremely pleased with the announcement that Area DD will not be developed in the immediate future. What I would like to understand is why the early councillors were not informed before the public announcement and only found out about reading an item in the local papers.
If I could take that, Mayor. I must admit, as a council, we are doing so much at the moment, I find it difficult to report on it, let alone reporting on things that I don't do. But I do understand why the early ward councillors are concerned. I'm pleased that the early residents and the local ward councillors are in support of our decision not to progress with the plans to develop Area DD for housing in the immediate future. And please accept my apologies if any local ward councillors feel they weren't informed before it became public. Area DD, as it's been said, is a council-owned land that was designated for housing in the local plan, and so previously approved in principle as part of a standard consultation exercise. However, following further consideration, the executive took the decision not to progress the site for housing for the foreseeable future. Going forward, the council will, wherever possible, inform relevant ward councillors and members of the Affordable Housing Implementation Group of any key decisions relating to development of council-owned land or property. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary question?
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Blumenthal, could I ask you to ask your question of Parry Bath, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that this council is working to improve South Lake and its water garden. Please, can you summarise what's on the horizon that my residents can look forward to?
Thank you, Laura, for that question. There is currently a collaborative project in place, Mr. Mayor, working alongside Countryside Services, Biodiversity Officer and localities to help improve the areas at South Lake. With funding sparse, we have pooled money together to carry out reed bed works to improve the ecology of the area as well as the look of the site. Over the autumn-winter period, vegetation clearance works will also be taking place alongside the lake to reduce rhododendron, which should aid the ecology of the lake and support its inhabitants. Volunteers have been utilising the partnership with Countryside Services to carry out works to clear out the pond, that's water garden, of rubbish, water soldiers and bulrushes. In recent years, stretches of footpath on both sides of the lake have been upgraded and a bund on the embankment introduced to assist the security of the dam. As one of the many of our parks and open spaces, there is no set budget for this site, and any available funds must be spent on to serve all areas we look after across the borough. Our contractor carries out scheduled work to cut back vegetation around the lake and pond, keep it litter-free as far as practical. Any additional works carried out would be on a health and safety basis, and we're always willing to work in partnership with different services and towns, parish councils to improve areas wherever possible.
Do you have a supplementary?
I do. Thank you for that answer. Would you agree with me that the South Lake Angling Club deserves special thanks for all the work they've done to maintain the health of the lake and making it a more pleasant place for all residents?
Yes, I do agree with you, Laura. I think they do a great job, and they did lay some barley bales around the lake earlier this year, which has helped make the water healthier for the wildlife. I thank them for their ongoing hard work to make the lake better for all of us.
Thank you very much. Can I ask Councillor Jenny Cheng to ask her a question of Barry Bath?
A number of elderly residents have tripped over the uneven paving in Woodley Precinct and broken bones or fallen unconscious. Outside Waitrose and around, the trees are the worst areas. I beg your pardon. Outside Waitrose and around the trees are the worst areas which have been raised with this council with photographic proof. An inspection by this council was carried out recently and a few areas addressed, but not these accident hotspots. Please can you explain what will be done to fix the slabs in these areas and potentially save a life?
Thank you, Jenny. I'll take this one actually because it's my responsibility, not Parry's, although not personally. Woodley Precinct, I know we've been in a lot of conversation over Woodley Precinct and people falling over broken slabs and that sort of stuff with you and with Laura for quite some time. So thank you for your perseverance. It's regularly inspected on a monthly basis for safety defects by Volker Highway safety inspectors. Any safety defects that have been identified as a safety issue will be repaired or have been repaired and made safe as per the Wokingham Highway Inspection Plan. Regarding the areas around the trees, the issue really is the roots. The slabs and blocks have been replaced where possible and concrete fillets replacing the remainder of the areas where the tree roots present slabs and blocks being refixed have been put in place. However, the real problem is we've got trees pushing up the blocks all the time and we need to find a better solution to that. The area outside and around Waitrose, all slabs and blocks that are considered a highway safety risk have been replaced and reset, and again these works are carried out at the end of June. The highways officer responsible for the precinct would be happy to meet with both ward councillors for Southlake on site to walk around and discuss any issues and explain what is considered dangerous as a safety defect on behalf of WHIP. And I'd be happy to come as well. There's a long-term issue regarding the undulations caused by roots, as I mentioned, outside the card factory and the newsagents, and we're currently looking at possible improvements. There is also an issue with continued damage to large volume of broken slabs at the Headley Road end of the precinct, with vehicles continuously using this area to drop off and pick up. This area is also being looked at for more robust area or to restricting parking to try and avoid the damage caused by the lorries. In the meantime, we'll continue to inspect the precinct and repair it to keep it safe until we get a permanent solution.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Oh, I did turn that off. Thank you for offering to come and meet us. Please could the executive member for the environment come and meet us too, since it concerns trees?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I ask Imogen Shepherd-Dubay to ask her question of John Horsall?
Thank you and good evening. I have noted that one of our councillors who left the council last year did not get removed as a non-executive director of WBC Holdings until June this year. Can we have the information on how much money has been paid to these ex-councillors in this way? Thank you.
Mr Mayor, the company's paid £3,350 to one ex-councillor who was requested by the company to continue as a director after their term as councillor ended. This was for the period of 4th of May 2018 to the 12th of June 2019.
Do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you. Well, if this councillor is no longer part of this council, why are they occupying a space that's reserved for our councillors? So what work did they do for Woking Borough Council within that time?
The appointments are by the board themselves. The particular councillor was considered by the board to have a particular expertise. And as I say, the appointment ended on the 12th of June, so I've not really much idea what he was doing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, if we just say there's just a couple of minutes left.
There are just a couple of minutes left for questions, so I will ask if Maria Gee would like to ask her question, Are you able to ask it in your name?
Yes, can I ask the question in my name, please?
Thank you very much. This is to Councillor John Halsall.
The answer is yes, Mr Mayor.
Brief. Well, I think we can manage another one, can we?
Sorry,
supplementary. Yes, yes.
Thank you. It's very pleasing to hear that the Council will be flying the flag. So it's been 65 years since the death of genius and war hero Alan Turing, who was shamefully persecuted by the state. It's 50 years since the Stonewall Uprising and 16 years since the repeal of Section 28. Yet, in the last 3 years, Thames Valley Police recorded 42 homophobic and transphobic hate crimes and other incidents in the Bracknell and Wokingham area. This is a very ugly truth. Will the Leader of the Council lead the way by stating that he abhors attacks on individual groups, including our LGBT+ residents, commends those attempting to drive out homophobic and transphobic crimes and abuse, and commits to creating an inclusive community by supporting a Wokingham Borough Pride event in 2020?
I didn't understand what I was supposed to be supporting in 2020.
The Wokingham Borough Pride event. It's an event for the LGBT+ community to celebrate pride in their identity, and we don't have one yet, although Reading does.
The answer is that the Council welcomes diversity, recognises the interests of all minority groups and the importance of enabling equality for all. So if it's within the gift of the Council, and I think your roles were assuming that I had powers without the Council, which
my
is
question asked if
so the answer is yes.
My question asked if you would support it. I'm not asking the Council to support it. I'm asking you to support it.
Councillor Halsall answered that question, did he? Thank you. Unfortunately, we are out of time on these questions, and I would ask that Councillor Croy direct his question in form to John Halsall outside of this chamber for an answer. Well, I will speak to Councillor Halsall after the meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Could I ask Councillor Shirley Boyett, please, to ask her question?
In January 2019, our previous mayor officially opened a new development of 20 houses in my ward. Sutton Close is a mix of shared ownership and social rented homes. I have a press cutting here quoting Councillor Kaiser. "I was delighted to open this new development which brings 20 affordable homes to Wokingham Borough," he said. Sadly, these homes are not quite as affordable as the residents were led to expect. In addition to council tax, these residents are having to fork out an additional £100 each month in maintenance charges to the Housing Association. According to the Housing Association, this is because the council will not be adopting the road. I would like to ask the executive member responsible why the borough has no plans to adopt this road.
Regrettably, I think that's me. It would have been nice to have that in writing so I could actually do some investigation beforehand, but if you'd like to, I'll give you a written reply.
Thank you very much. Councillor Charlotte Haytham-Taylor, please, if you'd like to ask your question.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. It's a question for Councillor Wayne Smith. Thank you, Councillor Smith, for coming to visit Silchester Place in Shinfield South to see what Taylor Wimpey have been subjecting my residents to over the last 2 years whilst constructing behind their homes. There are very many serious health and safety breaches that their building contractors are exhibiting on site, such as builders using angle grinders in shorts without helmets and builders on rooftops without hard hats, just to name two. Please, can you advise me what is the best course of action and what your commitment is to stop this happening in the future in my ward?
Yeah, thank you, Charlotte. We did have a very good meeting with residents, and I have to say, we've got two very good workers working in the team. Connor Corrigan and Chris Howard has done a fantastic job for residents. But I think we've got to the stage now we're going to have to raise the bar. So we've taken it upon ourselves that we're going to write to the Chief Executive, Taylor Wimpey, include some support from John Redwood, and see what we can do. But it's serious, and we need to now take action against Taylor Wimpey, because it's not acceptable.
Thank you very much. Could I ask Andrew Mickleborough to ask his question, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My ward question relates to Hawkton Ward and is directed to the Executive Member for Planning. Despite verbal assurances from the developers that they would secure the large former Auto Trader House site at Dane Hill if they gained planning permission, which has now been won, the site remains in a derelict and dangerous state. It is almost continuously occupied by travellers and is a cause of great concern to nearby residents. What steps is the Executive Member for Planning able and willing to take to ensure that the developer makes this site safe and secure without any further delays?
I do know the site because I was on the planning committee, and I was part of the planning committee that supported the refusal of that application. I'm going to have to take that away, but I will speak to, I'm with enforcement tomorrow, so I will speak to Jason and see what we can do. Because when we visited the site, how long ago was it, 18 months ago? It was a dreadful mess then, so we do need to do something. Okay, I will take that away.
Councillor Andy Croy, I'd like to ask your question, please.
Thank you. I think mine is for Charlotte because it's about regeneration. Just like to thank Councillor Cheng for speaking up for the people of Woodley. The town centre falls entirely within my ward, and I would just like to ask Charlotte, when Wokingham Town Centre had a couple of £1 million, I know there was more which came from the Town Council, this borough spent a couple of £1 million on the regeneration of Wokingham Town Centre to take away exactly the same problems of uneven surface and trees. When will Woodley get the same money spent on it?
Thank you, Councillor Croy, for your question. It's actually something that we've been talking about this week. Regeneration doesn't stop at Wokingham in the town, and actually in my speech tonight I'm going to be talking about where else we're looking at. And the town of Woodley is an example where actually the paving slabs is something that is a concern to us, and we've talked about it this evening. The advantage of Wokingham Town was we were able to pool resources in order to deliver the marketplace. And that's the kind of thing we need to be going and working together with parishes and towns in order to deliver regeneration right across the borough. The advantage of SIL is that it's paid out to towns and parishes, and towns and parishes get more even if they've got a local plan. And I think in future that will be a really great thing for us doing things in partnership. And I'd certainly like to look at Woodley and see if there's something that we can do in partnership there.
Thank you. Councillor Gary Cowan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question is to the Leader of the Council. I mark up in my diary bi-monthly the date of this council meeting because I love to come here and see the thrust and political infighting and all the wonders that go on. And I do wonder whether, when I look at it, if items 26 and 27 on the agenda could be written reports from the executive and the owned companies, leaving only important business to be discussed then. Might it not be a better use of the time?
Councillor Cowan, that isn't the ward question.
I'll make a reply as Chairman of the Constitution that the order is set as per the Constitution. So if you write up an amendment, bring it along, I'm sure we'll look at it. But I also have a question for the Leader of the Council. I noticed in the local paper that Arthur Hill Pool, the sale of that has fallen through. And this is a pool that's very close to my heart because as a primary school pupil at Hillside Primary, it was a place I was taken to learn to swim. So I know exactly how valued this is by the local community. Is there anything this council can do to either purchase or fund the running of that of that pool and protect it from the cuts of the Labour-controlled Reading Borough Council? Thank you.
Chris, thank you very much for the question. May I take it away from me, with me, because it's a little bit sprung on me. I'm not sure what we can do in Reading, but I'll certainly have a look at it.
Thank you. Councillor Rachel Burgess.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a question for the Leader of the Council. Residents in my ward of Norreys are increasingly concerned about drug use and drug dealing in Wokingham Town Centre and in other parts of my ward. I appreciate this is a criminal matter, but with police and council resources both increasingly stretched, how can I reassure my residents that the council is doing all that it can to work with police to address their concerns?
Who would like to take that question? Do we have a... No? No? Who would it be? Is it a leader?
I think I really need to have notice of that question, Rachel. I'm very much very happy to look into it, but it covers a whole load of aspects which I don't have an answer to just off the top of my fingers.
Councillor Stephen Conway.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, I think you won't be able to answer this one, John. It's from an opposition councillor, this is the equivalent in cricketing terms of a long hop outside the leg stump. Will the Leader of Council accept my thanks for his personal commitment to delivering a new library for Twyford? I'm particularly grateful for his willingness to work cross-party on this issue of great importance to Twyford residents.
Do you wish to reply to that as a leader?
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Laura Blumenthal, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question is to the Executive Member for Highways. So my residents in Kingfisher Drive are so happy that this council is resurfacing their road, especially the service roads. Please can you share when the work will begin?
Thank you for the question, Laura. I'm informed that the work should begin towards the end of September. Obviously, that's dependent on what happens with previous roadworks and weather and all that sort of stuff, but we're pretty sure that that's round about the right date.
Councillor Imogen Shepherd-Bay.
Good evening, everybody. Within my ward of Embrook, we've got a number of roads that have trouble. I'm just opening my chocolate biscuits. So no trouble with speeding on certain roads around the ward. We occasionally get vehicle-activated signs, but they don't seem to get moved around the hotspots very often, and they don't seem to be available very often. I was just wondering if we could possibly. They seem to be the only effective way that we as a Borough Council have of tackling speeding in 20 and 30 mile an hour zones. I would like to ask the Lead Exec for Highways what other actions WBC could take to reducing the speed in these zones, and could we possibly get more equipment put into circulation? Thank you.
Yeah, we're happy to do speed watches in coordination with the Parish Council. In addition, we did put actually a speed camera on Old Forest Road relatively recently to try and encourage people to keep their speed down before all the building work is finished and it becomes an area that doesn't have a lot of fast-through traffic. Yes, that's one of the things. The complexity is we actually not only have to find the device, and we have a couple of them in stock, we also have to find a lamppost to put them on and get the power sorted out. So it does take a while. But we've certainly put one in Old Forest Road recently, and if you've got any other suggestions, I would be happy to see if we could put some more in from time to time for you.
Of course I haven't forgotten you, Rochelle. I was being given daggers. Please ask your question.
I wanted to ask the leading member for Highways, again, of course, Pauline, it's your turn all the time this time. What's being done actually on the Winch Relief Road Part 2? They were supposed to be moving the utilities, and so far the only thing I've seen them do is actually put up some nice new boards, and that's it. I've seen no persons, no dogs, no gerbils, no anybody doing any work there.
I'll have to give you a written reply to that, Rochelle.
Thank you very much. I think we've covered all the questions that have been... sorry? Oh. Sorry.
And I have a question to Pauline Jørgensen as well. I'd like to know why the ticket machines at Carnival Pool car park has changed.
Thank you, Lucarin. The Carnival Pool car parking ticket machines were changed today, I believe, because the recent legislation has banned the use of ANPR, which is the number plate recognition technology, through CCTV for use by local authorities. In the majority of circumstances, local authorities can now only enforce parking restrictions by camera in the following instances: school keep clear markings, bus stop stand clearways, red routes and bus lanes. The result is that the ANPR systems used in Carnival Pool multi-storey can't be used anymore, and we are not able to enforce using them, so therefore we have to change the machines.
Sorry, that strictly wasn't an Embrook question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Sorry, my geography is not that good, Lindsay. Apparently it is in Embrook.
I do now believe that I have completed all the questions that have been indicated they wish to ask. So on that basis, we'll move on to statements by the leader and executive members and deputy executive members. We have 20 minutes. So I would ask John Horsfall, please, Councillor.
Mr Mayor, I was honoured to be elected leader at the last council meeting, since which time it has been a privilege to meet many of our officers. We have a magnificent team led by an impressive team of directors who do great things with sole objective of serving our residents as best they might at optimal cost. They are an ambitious team and have in the main a can-do attitude, willing to do new things and generate new thought processes. Sometimes an idea which seemed sound has unforeseen consequences, and we need to change. I believe in encouraging this positive attitude and experimenting with new ideas and technology in the full knowledge that not everything works, and maybe we have to backtrack. The only way of avoiding this is to do nothing at all. We are, as you know, the lowest funded at Unitary. All the money that we spend comes from our residents or our commercial activities. Almost 80% of our available funds go to adults and children's services to look after the vulnerable. We cannot do everything that we want without a big increased financial burden on our residents. To avoid this, we need constantly to find new ways of generating new income, something which my predecessors started, reducing costs and improving services through technology and better methods. It is really disappointing, therefore, to have members of the opposition criticising our staff and what they do. Worse still, information is being given to the press which is incorrect, harmful to our staff, and not checked with the executive member as to its veracity. Last summer, unprecedented demand, high staff turnover and leadership instability led to deterioration in the quality of services for children. It could have compromised the safety of some children and young people had it not been urgently addressed. It was. The new senior leadership team have taken steps to establish stability and improve services. I'm delighted that Ofsted acknowledged that things are improving. They made many positive observations about our work. This is a testament to the quality of our staff and the hard work and dedication they put in daily to improve the lives of children and young people in our borough. It has made me very proud to be the leader of the council watching this. There are two motions tonight which are significant to the administration's objectives: climate change and housing numbers. We must do everything in our armoury to reduce the required housing numbers, because that is what we believe most of the borough wants us to do. Even then, we may fail in our endeavour. The response
Sorry,
to
is there a point of order from Councillor
Yes,
Croy?
there is a point of order. I think the purpose of the leader's speech is to describe the past and future work of the council. He's talking about political resolutions, and under 4.2.23, he can't make speeches of a party political nature. These are party political resolutions, so he shouldn't be talking about them in the leader's speech.
In your view.
Continue, sir.
Yeah, carry on.
We must use everything in our armoury to reduce the required housing numbers, because that is what we believe most of the borough wants us to do. Even then, we may fail in this endeavour. The response to the consultation to date has been exceptional. It is wrong to conflate the obligation to produce a local plan with any other services which we are obliged to deliver, including adults and children's. We must do all of them and still balance the budget. That is what a sound Conservative administration does and has done for the last 20 years in the borough. Despite losing all our government
Mr. Mayor, can I
grant,
just say again, this is supposed to be a leader's speech. This is supposed to be a leader's speech about the current and future work of the council. He's not standing there as the leader of the Conservative group. He's standing there as the leader of the council, and he shouldn't be referring to party political matters.
despite losing our
Sorry,
government
can
grant.
I just hold on for a moment? Could I ask you just to pause for a moment? Would you like to continue? Thank you.
It's a very fragmented speech, but there you go.
We'll
Despite
give you extra
losing
time.
all our government grants, which was a large proportion of our income, there have been no services lost. We still collect the rubbish every week. Our roads are in better shape than our neighbours. Our libraries and leisure centres have constantly increased footfalls. Our care homes are really excellent. Our home care is really excellent. And our schools are the envy of our neighbours. The borough is where people want to live. This is due in the main to our officers, who are second to none. I hope all councillors can join me in praising and supporting them. Thank you.
Councillor Lucrin-Clark, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following on from what Councillor Horsall said, this summer we were subject to an Ofsted inspection under the new ILACS framework. The judgment was requires improvement to be good, which we consider to be an accurate appraisal of the current position in children's services. An unprecedented escalation in demand, coupled with high staff turnover and leadership instability in the summer of 2018, led to a deterioration in the quality of services for children and could have compromised the safety of some children and young people had this not been urgently addressed. However, this perilous situation was recognised and addressed by the new senior leadership team, who have taken steps to establish stability and begin to improve services. Because of the recent instability at this point in time, we would not have expected a good judgment, and we recognise that services for children are still too variable. But we are very pleased that Ofsted have acknowledged that things are improving under the new stable leadership team, and that they made many positive observations about our work with children and young people. This is testament to the quality of staff and the hard work and dedication they put in daily to improve the lives of children and young people in Wokingham. I am very proud to be the Executive Member of Children's Services, which has a relentless focus on the safeguarding and achievement of all children. We have a first-class children's leadership team who know what needs to be done to improve services and is working tirelessly to ensure that services for all children and young people are good. The 5 areas identified by Ofsted for improvement to be good are stability of the workforce, specifically children with disabilities team and longer-term teams, effectiveness of child in need and child protection plans, quality and effectiveness of the social work support that disabled children and their family receive. Level of critical scrutiny and quality of supervision provided by frontline managers. Oversight and impact of the Corporate Parenting Board. None of this was a surprise to the leadership team, and work was already underway before the inspection to make these improvements. Additionally, there appears to be some confusion between the joint local area SEND inspection in Wokingham in March 2019 and the ILACS inspection in June 2019. The authority was subject to a joint local area inspection of its special educational needs and disabilities, which we call SEND services, in March 2019. So I would ask interested parties, and particularly the press, to check with me as to the veracity of reports made to them, and I made my phone number available. Now, I'd like to report on the Northern House School. In short, there is no further movement regarding the school since we first received notification from the Trust of their intention to withdraw from the running of its schools. We are waiting for a decision from the Regional Schools Commissioner as to whom they have appointed as a replacement. In the meantime, we are continuing to place children at the school, and we are supporting those young people and their families during a period of uncertainty. We are intending to place another 6 children there in September. This school will play an important role in providing future SEND placements for Wokingham, but it will be necessary to renegotiate arrangements both on cost and form of provision with the new provider trust, and it is unlikely that this will happen quickly. We spoke earlier about the recruitment of SEND staff, and I'd like to tell you that an additional £250,000 have been made available to improve staffing levels, and it will be used to appoint additional SEND case managers. We have now filled all our vacancies with the exception of 2 posts, the team manager and the SEND case manager. We still have some interim staff, but it is the intention of our new director, Carol Cummins, to ensure that they are replaced with permanent staff over the coming months. And we can already now see that the additional resources are beginning to positively impact on workloads and engagement with families. Finally, Foundry School. Work is ongoing to develop the school site. The local school Key Patch, along with Ashridge Nursery, have met with senior officers to explore how the site can be best developed. There are issues that need to be resolved around the vehicle entrances, but overall there is support of the moves. We are going to move out staffs from both the social care and the education, and it is intended that we are going to submit a planning application for Foundry in August. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Charles Barry Bath, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Charles Margetts, please.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
We're going to Charlotte.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, Regen first, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to start tonight by mentioning and thanking Councillor David Lee, who was the previous leader a couple of leaders ago. He was the original person who had the vision for the town centre and the drive to start the regeneration of this town. There were, of course, many naysayers, not just 10 or 12 years ago, but even still some today. But I'm really pleased that we didn't listen and we didn't let the town die and shrivel. And we've been rewarded by a town now that's pushing forward and bringing in new investment, new leisure facilities, and indeed fresh footfall. Yesterday, crowds of hugely excited children, the next generation to enjoy this town, and their parents gathered at the gates of the new play park of Elmsfield for the formal launch. And they were the very first to enjoy it and try out all of the fabulous new inclusive and accessible play equipment. The launch was a massive success, and if you weren't there, then just look at the photographs because they tell the stories in themselves. If you've not already been down to the park, please go and take a look. The play area has been specially designed using sustainably sourced wood, which looks fantastic in and around the established trees and the new elms, English oaks, birches and maples, which have been added in and around the park. Tonight, I also wanted to thank the team of officers and the builders who've managed to deliver this part of the scheme on time for all of us to enjoy over the summer holidays. People were already sitting out on the new grass on rugs, enjoying the stunning new park. And with areas also left to wildflower meadows, lots of new wildlife will also be able to find a sustainable home here. And hopefully we can also support Britain's shrinking bee population too. The park has also been fitted out with bins for recycling, so there's absolutely no excuse to leave your litter, and you can also recycle it whilst you're there on site. The park will also become the beating heart of the town with integrated electric and water, and is now truly fit for outdoor events for the 21st century throughout the year, so everyone can come from right across the borough to enjoy it. Yesterday was another milestone in Wokingham's regeneration, but it doesn't stop here. Buildings are going up around the park very quickly. Aldi is already open, the hotel is near completion, and we're at varying stages of discussion with over 10 different realtors who see Wokingham as a great place to come and to trade. But the regeneration should not stop as Wokingham, as I intimated earlier. And this is perhaps best demonstrated in our investment in other parts of the borough. The Bullmarsh Leisure Centre is progressing at pace, and I'm sure you'll hear more about that. And also, we're looking at going further north in the borough. Heading to Twyford, I'm excited that the executive will be asked to kick off the new library project there next week. This demonstrates that everywhere in the borough is being looked at and considered, and that the Conservatives have a long-term view of regarding investment in our residents and their future to ensure that this borough continues to thrive.
Thank you very much. Councillor Charles Margaret, please.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, I've now been in post for 8 weeks and would like to update you on fellow members on progress within adult social care within Wokingham and also plans for the future. This is an absolutely vital service which supports some of the most vulnerable people in the community and promotes the well-being and independence of many more. The picture nationally is very difficult in this sector. Since 2010, councils have had to bridge a £6 billion funding shortfall to keep the system going. Demand for care, however, endlessly increases. Nationally in England, there are 1.8 million new requests for adult social care a year, the equivalent of 5,000 a day. A recent ADAS report states that the average adult social care department in the UK is predicting an overspend this year of nearly £900,000, and that 89% of adult social care directors have no confidence or only partial confidence that their budget will meet their statutory duties by the end of 2019-20. This leads to unprecedented pressure on adult social care staff, who to my mind should be valued as NHS workers are across the UK. Turning to Wokingham, I wanted to start with a couple more statistics. Adult social care consumes around 40% of the council's annual budget. The complexity of what we do here is extraordinary. We support over 2,000 vulnerable adults. 27,000 care and support payments each year are made to do this. All of this is achieved with around 140 full-time posts. To manage something of this complexity with such few people is a reflection on the hard work of our officers, all of our staff, basically from the new director all the way down to the grassroots. I mentioned earlier the national situation with adult social care finances. In Wokingham, despite all the pressure, we are forecasting to keep to our current budget. The climate going forwards is very challenging, but the department is focused on keeping expenditure under control and doing as much as possible with the taxpayers' pound. The officers are putting considerable effort into improving forecasting to enable us to pick up problems coming forwards and to be as efficient as possible. We do many things well here within adult social care in Wokingham. We have some of the shortest waiting times for social worker assessments in the country. During 2018 to 19, 84% of older people who received reablement were still living in their own homes 3 months later. Another example of high performance which keeps pressure off the NHS. 98% of our residential homes, 92% of our nursing homes, and 94% of domiciliary care providers are classed as good or outstanding by the CQC. Our mental health team has recently received the prestigious accreditation from the Royal College of Psychiatry. I want to pay tribute to Christine Dale, her 2 service managers and their team for this achievement. And our deprivation of liberty safeguarding team continue to perform very well. However, the future is not easy. The national picture predicts that by 2025, 8% of all people over 65 will have dementia. 42% of the budget is currently spent on services for people with learning disabilities. We're expecting a 10% increase by 2025. The total number of people aged 18 to 64 with a mental health disorder living in the borough will increase again greatly by 2025. I think it really is high time that central government got its act together and produced a national long-term social care plan for the whole country. Our priorities for the next 12 months are an action plan to tackle social isolation across the borough, to improve the way we review care packages across the borough to ensure residents get the correct quality of service and the taxpayers' pound is spent on the services that need it, to work with our partners in the voluntary sector to ensure their efforts are focused alongside ours to deliver the complete package of services, to work with our partners in health and to provide a plan to improve primary care in the borough, and to improve our financial forecasting to ensure, while the national picture is difficult, we make every effort to remain on budget. Development and a review of help for young people with a learning disability focused on preparing them for adulthood and an early integrated transition across children and adults. So, Mr. Mayor, plenty to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Parry, sorry, you've got out of order. I'm going to say we're going to have to rush you, so if you can speak very quickly.
I'll try my best. I always let the ladies go first. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to focus on some of the items under my watch that will benefit the residents of Wokingham Borough. Ageing actively Wokingham, just to support Charles here. This is an initiative to reduce social isolation and loneliness through physical activity for older people living in the borough. To support these people, the Sports and Leisure team recruited 12 volunteers in the early part of 2019 and trained them to become senior peer mentors with a view of supporting other older residents in the borough. By keeping active will help improve mental and physical well-being and reduce loneliness and isolation. Sessions are in place in Wokingham Borough Council's sheltered schemes, the Borough Country Sparks and the Walking for Health programme. Second item was the Embrook 3G. The Embrook 3G pitch will provide the school and the community of Wokingham a wonderful football facility. The work is due to start in July, construction taking place 12 to 14 weeks. The new pitch will not only enhance the school's PE provision, but will also create facilities for the local community. The pitch will be adaptable for 5, 7, 9 and 11-a-side games. Bulmesh Leisure Centre was briefly mentioned. Construction of the new £14.5 million leisure centre is going well. The site will include 6-lane, 25-metre swimming pool, teaching pool with movable floor so larger groups of ages and abilities can use it, a larger gym plus a live well gym for people living with long-term health conditions. It will also benefit from a forecourt sports hall and additional studio and a cafe. Waste and recycling collection. The new food waste collection service is really going well. A target of 1.46 kilograms per week per household has been met, and that's going really well. And with the expected
Harry,
7%...
I'm really sorry to stop you there.
Certainly, yes.
Gripping,
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
you.
Can't allow you to go on any further. Thank you.
I hope you don't mind if I just stand up. The Leader of the Council made an offer to the opposition regarding statement on the senior officers and officers of the Council. I would like to echo the comments of the Leader of the Council. We have an excellent senior leadership team. Some of them have come in new, and I think they've started off and working really well, and they do need to be very much supported. And I just want to say that, and I echo your comments.
Thank you, Lindsay. Okay, we come on now to statements from council-owned companies. We have a maximum of 10 minutes for this, so I would ask, first of all, Councillor John Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I haven't got much to say at the moment, purely and simply because the boards have changed substantially. We've had councillors that leave. We've also been joined from members from cross-party. I will be bringing forward, as far as the housing company is concerned, affordable housing strategy, which will be probably in the next couple of months, that I'm working on with officers, and that's across the different housing providers, the HRA, our own companies, and also the houses we're providing within the town centre. Optilis are in the same position. Of course, we're changing all the board members. We are looking at Optilis are a company that produce quality care, and we are just really looking at whether or not the services we get from Optilis, whether they suit our residents' requirement, and I'm sure we'll be coming back with that again. So that's really all I've got to say on companies. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other statements that anybody wishes to put forward? No. Thank you very much. Sorry, we have 30 minutes per motion, and I believe we have 4 motions to discuss. So, first of all, motion 416, and the proposer is Sarah Kerr. Would you like to present your motion, please?
I won't read the motion out, you've got it in front of you. I got involved in politics as a result of what happened at Grenfell Tower. Innocent people lost their lives due to poor political decisions. And this ignited a desire in me to want to stand up for people in our community who were often overlooked by our political class, people who were often seen as the minority. I am really fortunate to have my granddad, who is 96 years young, fit and healthy, except for his poor eyesight. He is registered visually impaired. And every Tuesday I take my granddad out to Morrison's in Woking, where he lives, and we get lunch and we do a bit of shopping. As such, I know the visual and physical cues he uses to navigate safely. When the Wokingham Town Marketplace reopened last year, it was immediately obvious to me that something was wrong due to the experience I have with my granddad. This led me to investigate, and I discovered that people with visual impairment had not been fully considered throughout all stages of the process when designing the marketplace. In fact, not all stages of the process were fully documented from an equalities perspective. And as such, there have been a number of issues raised regarding safety for people with protected characteristics. These concerns are being investigated by the Council, and I welcome improvements that address these concerns. But we should not be retrospectively considering the impact on our vulnerable residents. The Public Sector Equality Duty, contained in Section 149 of the Equalities Act 2010, requires public authorities to have due regard to a number of equality considerations when exercising their functions. As part of the Public Sector Equality Duty, local authorities must evidence their compliance with the Equalities Act. An equality impact assessment is an analysis of a proposed organisational policy or a change to an existing one, which assesses whether the policy has a disparate impact on persons with protected characteristics. Assessing the impact on equality is not just something the law requires, it is a positive opportunity for public authorities to ensure they make better decisions based on robust evidence and are transparent in the process. If records are not kept, it may make it more difficult, evidentially, for a public authority to persuade a court that it has fulfilled its duty. The marketplace regeneration is just one example of where this council is not fully complying. There needs to be a shift in culture at Wokingham Borough Council. Considering equalities is not something we should do because the law tells us to. We should and must be doing this because we're here to serve all of our residents. Just because the majority are catered for does not make it acceptable to ignore the minority. And in order to change the culture, it must start from the top. That is every single one of us in this room. We are the faces of this council, and we have to lead by example and be that change. Currently, senior officers undergo mandatory training on this subject. There is an online training course on the council intranet, which is available for elected members to partake, and I strongly urge all of us sitting in this room to do it, please. This training will also be available to all new members once they are elected. In addition to this, training must also be given in the new councillor induction session and at the first executive briefing of the municipal year. Currently, the attendance record of elected members is available on the council's website. Any training undertaken by elected members will also be published in the same way. Transparency is crucial for anything the council undertakes, but particularly when it comes to equalities. All equality impact assessments will be made publicly available on the council website. In order to determine whether an equality impact assessment is required, an initial impact review is done. And where an equality impact assessment is deemed not required, the initial impact review will also be made publicly available on the council website. In addition to this, when policy papers are presented to us, currently there is an emphasis on the financial implications of the recommendation listed. The measure of success of this or any council cannot rest solely on its finances. We are dealing with people, our residents, and every policy paper put before us also needs to include the impact on them as well, including those with protected characteristics. We must give confidence to everyone that lives, visits and works in Wokingham Borough that we are considering everyone's needs. What I'm proposing is a very simple and effective way of doing this. I strongly urge this council to demonstrate its support to ensure that Wokingham Borough is a great place to live and an even better place to do business for everyone.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder to the... Thank you very much. John Halsall, please. Do you wish to speak on it now?
Mr Mayor, I'm very pleased to second this, as it reaffirms the Council's commitment to compliance with the public sector equality duty of the Equalities Act 2010. The Council currently undertakes equality impact assessments when required. The additional requirement to which I agree is that members should undertake PSE, ED and EQI training.
PSE, ED and EQIA.
Thank you. It's very difficult to say for an old man. But as I think we all agree, in accordance with Standing Order 4.2.13.12A2, I propose the motion now be put.
Does anybody wish to speak on this before we go to the vote? Yes, we do. So we've got Imogen.
Sorry, this is truncating the debate. This is truncation of the debate. It is suggested to put it to
Point of order, Mr Mayor. I think you'll find that it's in the Mayor's opinion if the debate is stopped at this point.
Yes, we will continue with the debate. Thank you. Those wishing to speak, can they show again, please?
Yeah. And who's the
Imogen Shepherd-Dubay, please.
I'm very pleased to see that this motion coming forward because, I mean, do any of us truly understand what it's like to walk a mile in someone else's shoes? As an autistic woman who's married to another woman, I can't think of many of you have the same perspectives as me, but I don't know what it's like to be you either. So I think we're even on that front. But as long as we can agree and respect our differences, that's fine by me. So moving to the point, I have seen equality is underrated by this council on a regular basis, particularly when it comes to the provision of people with disabilities, who are pushed to the bottom of the pile over aesthetics, costs or some perceived priority. If anyone dares suggest that we are meeting our obligations already under the Equalities Act, I can clearly tell you that we are not. Last year, this council removed disabled parking bays from outside Carnival Pool in Wokingham because it wanted to park a second coach outside the pool building. This meant that for many disabled people, they could no longer use the pool because they could not walk the distance from the multi-storey car park. We've been given a temporary fix, but I am still being told that it's not a permanent one and may be removed when the pool is rebuilt. I cannot fathom how it has become the case that the provision of suitable disabled parking was considered less of a priority than parking for a second coach for able-bodied people. I ask you, where was the EQIA for rebuilding Carnival Pool? Why has it not been published? Where is the EQIA for moving the library to this location? Again, I've not seen it published. And has anyone bothered to consider the needs of the library service users, who are likely to be very different from the current leisure centre users? I did not see an EQIA being done for the decision to remove our school crossing patrollers. One was done eventually after much pressure was put on them, but not before the decision was made. This was a decision that affected hundreds of children and their parents across the borough. Within Wokingham Marketplace, it seems that aesthetics has been prioritized over the need for our disabled residents, We are still waiting for clearly marked disabled bays and a place for our community transport buses to stop. It also feels that no one here seems to understand that we're building a Wokingham only for the fit, the rich and the able-bodied. I say this is with our new town is considered a priority to provide raised bus. It's not considered a priority to provide raised bus stops on Broad Street. This is where the main stops are for people using the town, and the buses clearly provide a lot of transport for people with mobility issues. We have an obligation to provide EQIAs at the beginning of a project or a change in service or an update, and to update it iteratively throughout the design and build phase. Most people start with using their personal knowledge, but in many cases this is not enough, and we must consult more widely. If we do not do this, it would not be seen favourably in a court of law if it was challenged. So, we need to provide our officers with the right support to be able to understand and tackle these concerns about equalities and prioritise them. But as councillors, we need to commit to understanding that need too. There needs to be better understanding of equalities that touches everything we do here in our legal obligations. With this, I feel that our documents for sign-off by our executive members must include a tick box for making sure that the equalities elements have been dealt with. I also feel that councillors must take time to complete the equalities training online so that we can spot the problems if we see one. The online training should not be the only method of doing this, but it's certainly a start. I would also like to see this council prioritise equalities much more highly within all the work that it does. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Andy Croy.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Sarah, for bringing this motion, and thank you, John, as well, for seconding it and making clear it's a cross-party thing. I was a bit surprised by the attempt to move to the vote straight away. I can't believe that none of the Conservative group have their stories that they don't want to tell about why, Parry, why this is important. Like Sarah, I was involved in politics as a very young man in this area, but I rejoined the Labour Party about 4 or 5 years ago, when my ex-wife had a catastrophic stroke, and as a result of having to look after her, quickly became very, very aware of the inadequacies of the care system and social care, etc. And one of the things which affected her once she was mobile again was the loss of a bus service. And I banged on about buses in Woodley loads of times, you've heard me. But that bus that used to run down the Old Forest Road that was cut for funding reasons, was there an equality assessment? I don't know. But it really, really messed her up. You know, she's a woman who struggles to get out of the house, and that really messed her up. So the more we have of this, and the more we treat less able people as full citizens of our society, the better. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Councillor Clive Jones.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I fully support the motion presented by my colleague Sarah Kerr, and I'm really pleased that the Leader of the Council has seconded it. It became clear that the Council, for whatever reasons, have had some difficulties with looking at equalities legislation in a timely fashion or at the right time. As Sarah says, there needs to be a change of culture at the Council, and equalities legislation has to be complied with and looked at the right time in a planning process or during the planning of a project. The change of culture needs to start at the top. I would like to see all members of the executive undergo training on equalities within 3 months of their taking office. I think that the Leader of the Council committed to this earlier on. Can he confirm that he has committed to this? Sarah also makes the point that at the end of policy papers and agendas, there is a note about financial costs, and this is absolutely right. But it's time to also include confirmation that all the equalities assessments have also been considered and completed, also noting those that haven't been considered or completed. Only then can we be sure that all of the assessments have been considered properly for the benefit of all of the residents of the borough. Would the Leader of the Council also like to commit to putting this into operation within the next 9 months?
Thank you. Does the Leader wish to respond?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, yes, I'm happy to respond. Yeah, yes is the answer to where practical. Yes is the answer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rachel Burgess.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I support this motion. It's clear that this council should be systematically addressing equal opportunities when making decisions in relation to all 9 protected characteristics. This is key to eliminating discrimination and advancing equality of opportunity. I'm a member of the party that brought in the Equality Act and arguably brought in every progressive piece of equality legislation. Unfortunately, over the last 9 years, progress has been rolled back, particularly for women, people with disabilities, and LGBT and BAME communities. Cuts to public services have fallen disproportionately on women and ethnic minorities. When completed properly, and not just as a tick box exercise, equality impact assessments are one important way to systematically address equality in all key decisions the Council makes. As well as the importance of equality impact assessments, the training of members is very much necessary, as others have echoed. I've been shocked to see the level of ignorance on equality issues from some members in this chamber in some of the committees on which I sit. I would therefore welcome the extension of this training to all members. This council should be taking its public sector duties seriously, and that's why I support this motion.
Thank you. Andrew Mickleborough.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I trust that all members would wish that Wokingham Borough Council will be able to show unequivocally to all our stakeholders that equality is at the heart of its strategy and practice. Sadly, we are currently unable to demonstrate this. The motion before us is a vital step to ensure further progress towards achieving this important goal. We must not, however, underestimate the challenges that this will entail. They are likely to include significant cultural changes in the way that members and officers conduct much of their council business. Thought will need to be given not only to initial PSED and EQLA training, but to regular refresher courses for members and officers alike, including how those officers who receive training will cascade their learning to others. It's also essential not to homogenise members of any of the protected groups. In other words, we must ensure that there is not only a commitment, but robust procedures and processes in place to recognise the diversity of needs and wishes that exist within every one of these groups. Finally, much work will need to be done to engage with underrepresented and hard-to-reach groups, including the subsets of people within these groups. Much thought will need to be given as to how meaningful dialogue between the Council and stakeholders will be assured, how necessary information is collected and collated, and how policy is translated into meaningful practice. We must ensure that these and related matters will be adequately resourced.
Thank you. Councillor Carl Dolan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I fully support this motion. I'm proud that it was my party in government that enacted the Equality Act 2010, which in section 149 requires local authorities to comply with the public sector equality duty. I'm also proud that the Labour Party are the originators of the majority of anti-discrimination law used in this country. The duty means we must consider how we can positively contribute to the advancement of equality and good relations. It requires equality considerations to be reflected in the design of policies and the delivery of services, including internal policies, and for these issues to be kept under review. This motion's intent is to ensure that this not only happens, but it is seen to happen. And I support that wholeheartedly, and I'm glad to see the Leader of the Council does too. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Caroline Smith.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm very pleased to give my support to this motion, and as I'm slowly heading towards retirement age, I feel there is a large part of the population that is much forgotten, the elderly. They do not have a large voice, and nor are they seen often as a group on television. This part of the population is growing rapidly in number, over 65s being 18% of the population in 2017, and is often sidelined in society, particularly those on lower incomes. Finding access to many services, especially those online, can be really daunting and are a major hurdle, with the often patronising formal response being ask friends, neighbours and family to help. Discrimination of the elderly is not often up for public debate, but one thing I'm sure of is that this is something that will affect us all and can be affecting a member of their families today. So please let's make sure they are treated equal at all times.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Fishwick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support this motion. My background was in highways and transport. All projects as well as policies that I've been involved in recent years since the Ecologies Act 2010 came into operation underwent an assessment covered by the Act. Staff were also sent on an Ecologies training course to ensure they understood the fundamentals of the Act and how to assess works, projects, schemes and policies. Projects and policies would be assessed by the promoting team, but independently checked and signed off by another. These assessments will be published on the website. In addition, any committee report would include a section on Equality's impact to ensure that officers had considered this as part of their review of the topic and councillors were made aware. If these steps had been in place, the issues with the marketplace highlighted by my fellow councillor Sarah Kerr this evening would not have transpired, and Wokingham Borough Council must not allow this to happen again. The Borough Council is here to serve anyone who lives, works and visits the borough, and it must be transparent in exercising its functions when it comes to the Equalities Act. I therefore urge you all to support this motion this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does the proposer wish to have the right to reply?
Thank you all very much for your comments and the debate. It does seem that this council appears to be behind this motion. I just want to pick on a couple of things. It's actually, good to hear other people's real life experiences, and I'm sorry about your situation, Andy, but I just want to acknowledge. Okay. I also want to thank the Labour government for actually bringing this act in. It was also in the Lib Dem manifesto at the same time, so we're obviously very clear on that. Just to clarify on something, Imogen, the community bus stop is in process at the moment. No, we're nearly there. And the risk assessment of the marketplace is in motion at the moment. So things are being done. Things are changing. And I would like to thank the officers as well that have really helped put this together. So thank you very much. But we've got a long way to go. It's not really a controversial issue. But what I'm concerned about, though, is the reasons for this council backing this motion. This organisation has to be more than just words and promises. It has to deliver on those as well. And my concern is that this motion is going to pass, and I really hope it is going to pass, but without fully grasping why this motion is here in the first place. So I just want to try and change that for those that haven't really been fully bought in. In yesterday's Bracknell and Wokingham News, in an article about this motion, a senior member of this chamber was quoted as saying, "It is the sort of thing we are already doing anyway. We already do what the motion says, so it is just reaffirming what we do." I'm sorry, that's rubbish, okay? Why would I be wasting time on something that's not necessary? If the council was doing this kind of thing properly, we wouldn't have the problems that have been highlighted here tonight, and it does go much deeper than this. Look at the diversity out there that we represent, and now look around this council chamber. Why are we not reflecting that diversity? There are too many barriers in the way. And I can say this from personal experience. In my time so far at this council, I have on more than one occasion been spoken to in an unacceptable manner, including had comments made that would not be made to my male counterparts. These comments only serve to belittle me. And the thing is, we've heard this before in this council chamber when an outgoing leader of this council commented on the Old Boys Network. It feels like some of us in this council chamber are seen as a tick in the diversity box. Believe me, we add a hell of a lot more value than that. This isn't about me or the other few people in this council chamber that represent protected characteristics, though. The point I make is to demonstrate that the problems we have of equality in this council are ingrained to the point that not everyone can even see it. This is a very real issue, and the attitude and culture has to change to address this. This is not about saying the right thing for the press. No, enough of the words. Do something. I appreciate I won't succeed in changing everyone's minds, but what I will have done is bring the problem to the forefront, raise awareness, and start to do something about it. Are you with me?
Thank you very much. Can I ask you to all now vote on that motion, 416 in the agenda pack? Those in favour? I think that's pretty unanimous, isn't it? Don't think anybody's against, are they? No. Thank you very much. That's carried. You want me to turn the microwave on, do you? Sorry. Yes, John
Mr
Halsall.
Mayor, I'd like to propose a motion in 417 in my name. It is hard to refute the evidence that the world has a problem and that unless it concertedly does something about it, then the consequences are serious. Wokingham Borough Council must and wants to do its part, but it must be underlined that Wokingham Borough Council on its own does not have the powers to play other than a supporting role. However, that role is significant in leading by example.
Sorry, we have a point of order from Councillor Andy Croy.
We're a rules-based society, and one of our rules is that you can't speak, John, until your motion has been seconded.
Do we have a seconder?
Andy, I'm always amazed by what you come up with.
You can call
It's
me prude
almost
tonight.
irrelevant. Would you like to second it?
I would like to second it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr Mayor and Andy Croy, if I can continue. However, that role is significant in leading by example and exhortation. 6 months from now, we will have tabulated a preliminary series of actions which will be compiled by officers, residents and members. I'd like to put the motion to the Council. I'm not sure how to handle this, so I look to you to advise me, but we have an amendment which we would like to just make one small amendment to the amendment, and then we're happy to accept it.
Can we first of all ask the seconder if he would like to speak to this motion at this stage? Or would you rather...
Mr Mayor, I'd like to reserve my position to speak later.
The motion has an amendment.
Needs to be proposed.
That one needs to be proposed. If you have something as an additional amendment, that would need to be looked at after, I believe, wouldn't it?
Unless Carl wants to change, because he hasn't proposed it yet.
Right.
I propose it.
Councillor Carl Doran to make his amendment proposal, please.
Okay, I assume here what I'm doing is I'm going to propose the amendment that I have changed. Is that correct, or am I doing the one as written? Okay. Okay. Yes, I've got to propose it first, though. I've not proposed it yet. I'd like to propose amendments that before you. There is a change to that amendment on the beginning of the second paragraph where it says, this council, that will be changed to read, the executive member for climate change. So it will read, the executive member for climate change will set up a cross-party working group, etc. The amendment stays the same apart from that.
Seconder for that? Sorry? Clive Jones, the seconder, yes. Councillor Carl Doran, you have the opportunity to speak on this now then.
Thank you. I will. just want to say it's great to be having my motion fought over to be seconded by the Leader of the Council, the Deputy Leader of the Dems. I welcome the commitment to declare a climate emergency inherent in the main motion. However, it doesn't quite go far enough, in my opinion. Sir David Attenborough said last month, you can't be radical enough in dealing with these issues. The question is what is practically possible and how we can take the electorate with us in dealing with these problems. Declaring a climate emergency cannot just be a matter of speaking a few words. Actions are key. As well as declaring an emergency, we also have to create a broad consensus of how we deal with it in the borough. That needs not only us in this chamber to agree, but our residents too. And that's why I advocate a cross-party working group to look into what should be done in conjunction with meaningfully consulting our residents. As to ideas for a working group to consider, we asked this question at our stall at Woodley Carnival, and it's clear that the public are very, very interested in contributing to this debate. We have an educated and interested population, and we should be directly involving them in this in order to leverage the ability and the imagination that will be required to deal with the emergency. And we mustn't forget, some of what must happen is likely to be unpalatable. And therefore, we need to have the support of our residents rather than imposing edicts on them from above. Other councils of all political persuasions are setting up similar groups, and I want to ensure we do too. I hope that the working group will be able to make representations to government to urge them to follow the recommendations of the Committee on Climate Change and give us the additional powers and funding needed to ensure that we become carbon neutral by 2030. Addressing the climate crisis is possible. This is not really a political issue, it's a moral one. But there is a question whether the political will is there to take on the vested interests that will undoubtedly try to prevent meaningful action. The response that is going to be required nationally is equivalent to the changes required by War and Peace between 1940 and 1950. We must rise to the occasion. I commend the declaration, but I hope the members across the chamber will recognise the need to work together on this and support my amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As seconder, Councillor Clive Jones, do you wish to speak on this now, or?
Yes, I'll do it now, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I'm very pleased to be seconding this amendment to motion 417. There is no doubt that there is a climate emergency. I think the vast majority of us accept that there is a climate emergency, except perhaps Donald Trump and some of his Brexit party chums. On climate change, the Liberal Democrats have an excellent track record in government. They set up the Green Investment Bank, they quadrupled renewable energy sources, making energy cheaper, and they made the UK a world leader in offshore and onshore wind supply. Sadly, the Green Investment Bank was sold off by the Conservatives, and many of the measures supporting offshore and onshore wind were scrapped. However, I welcome this change of heart by the local Conservatives to try to embrace the green agenda. Frankly, these initiatives should have started some time ago, but there were too many people in the Conservatives who didn't think global warming was an issue. Hopefully, this new conversion to green politics will last longer than David Cameron's Vote Blue, Get Green, which never materialised. I and my colleagues will be supporting the amendment. We are delighted that the Executive Member for Climate Change will create an all-party working group that will work as soon as possible to ensure that climate change is taken seriously. And we think that he is going to be very genuine in doing that. We will support, we would also like the all-party working group to work on a Wokingham Borough Council ethical framework to ensure that all suppliers to Wokingham Borough Council are committed to a carbon neutral future. The local plan and borough design guide can be used to ensure all developers in Wokingham Borough are in line with what we want to achieve, a carbon neutral borough before 2030. I'm very pleased that Gregor agrees with Rochelle and the Liberal Democrats that the Council can make a start by making council-owned properties more efficient, including perhaps the building that we're in. 2030 is an ambitious target that will need council resources of officer time and money to ensure that the initiatives put forward by the working group come to fruition. This council must follow up the motion with concrete policies and proposals. Our residents, especially our younger residents, will not forgive us if we don't. Please support the amendment.
Thank you very much. Councillor Halsall, are you happy to accept the amendment as it stands?
Mr. Mayor, I'm over the moon.
Thank you. So we now go to the vote. Yes, we now go to the substantive motion.
It becomes the substantive.
Yes, it does become the substantive motion. Do you wish me to read the amendment, or are you all happy to... You would like me to read it? No, you're all quite happy to vote.
To go straight to debate.
Right, OK. Can we go straight to the vote?
Debate.
Debate, sorry, the debate. We have, first of all, I'll go to Councillor...
Hang on a minute.
Can I, well, Stephen Conway's got his hand up. If the others would remain with their hands up, we can move on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to support this motion. I'm especially happy to support it in this amended form. I'm very pleased to see the Council committing itself to playing its part in tackling the climate change emergency now facing us. This, of course, is a global problem, but there are things that we can do locally, and I would like, if I may, to focus on some of those that are very near to my heart. In my own ward, we've begun a campaign to reduce use of plastics. Twyford rethinks its plastics, or TRIP, under the auspices of Twyford Together, a local voluntary body which organises many village events and supports many local good causes. If the Council could encourage similar initiatives to TRIP elsewhere, that could make a real difference. The air quality at Twyford Village Crossroads is in urgent need of improvement, as the current unacceptable level of pollution is causing immediate problems for those with respiratory complaints and endangering the long-term health of local residents. I'm delighted that the Council now seems to be taking steps to address the issue. Simple, small and inexpensive changes can help. Fixing the malfunctioning sensors for the traffic lights has already improved flows through the crossroads. More fine-tuning will probably bring further benefits. New signage encouraging drivers to turn off their engines while they wait is also very welcome. More ambitiously, the Council now seems to be willing to install a green or living wall or column, which should help to absorb pollution. This will be more expensive than the other remedies that I've mentioned, but already local businesses have told me of their willingness to contribute if the Council will commit itself to covering the on-costs. I'm especially pleased to see the commitment shown to the Green Wall, as residents in Twyford drew my attention to this idea. Involving the community in our efforts, as Carl has already said, to address climate change emergency is absolutely vital. I think all councillors can act as a focal point for local involvement. That is part of our duty. A truly cross-party approach is therefore required, and we look to the new administration to demonstrate its willingness to work with councillors of all parties and groups on this important issue.
Councillor Angus Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we're all beginning to get this together, and I think that the motion and the idea of involving people around the borough and the various things that are already going on, as Stephen has mentioned there, and we have a plastic-free organisation in Crowthorne as well. And I think this is absolutely essential. It's one little thought about solar panels. We introduced solar panels to a number of schools and buildings about 6-7 years ago. And at that time, it was found that the structure of the roof of this building wasn't strong enough to take solar panels. Maybe now there's better technology and there may be ones that we can put on it. I support the idea of pooling councillor input to this vital initiative, and also supporting and useful contributions, as I've mentioned, from around the borough. For example, I've had conversations about our tree cover and tree matters, and some of these we discussed earlier this evening. My discussions with one of our tree officers and with the Wokingham District Veteran Tree Association, who are doing such marvellous work on a wide variety of matters around our trees. And together, we do ask for the support from the leader, the Executive Member for Environment and for Climate Emergency, and maybe this committee when it's set up, to work and do some initial work on a tree strategy for the borough. This is something which was suggested to us very strongly by a gentleman called John Stokes, who is an actual inspirational speaker about tree cover and tree work and the benefits of trees in this whole area from the Tree Council. So I do support what we're doing and hope that I can in some way work within this area. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Guy Granderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm pleased to see that this is going to be such a interesting debate tonight, and a very supported one. A great woman once said, "No generation has a freehold on this earth. All we have is a life tenancy with a full repairing lease." What a true statement. Every generation has a responsibility for the environment, and some of us within each generation have let us down on this repairing lease, hence why we are debating this today. This council has a responsibility to honour that repairing lease, and there are many factors within our power that we can influence here to make our borough carbon neutral. And in some areas, there are areas that are outside our power, and all we can do in these cases is to lobby for change and to pressure for that change. So what could we be doing better? We've already introduced food waste, we have increased our recycling, but what areas under control can we do better? The first area in our control is within the council's own resources. We should be installing solar panels on our council buildings. I'm so happy to hear that we will be doing that tonight. We should also be encouraging the use of electric cars throughout the borough within our car parks. Indeed, I understand that early we'll be getting a Tesla supercharge station in the next few months. Another area in our control and influence, if I may put it as such, is within our planning policy. With the local plan currently under review, on planning and with the government in addition consulting on putting car charging points in all new builds, we should examine our options here to put planning requirements to require the installation of solar panels and other environmentally friendly energy systems on our new builds. In addition, we should commit to reforestation as trees, as has already been mentioned tonight, as one of the most effective methods of reducing CO2 and protecting and enhancing our green space. Let us create more green planted verges like we did in earlier and have expanded throughout the borough already. This council should commit to be carbon neutral within the next decade. And there is work to be done in order to fulfil our lease to this planet. However, as Councillor Duran pointed out earlier, edicts from above can contain some regressive measures, such as increased penalties and taxation like fuel duty or VAT, regressive taxes, because those impact on those on society who have the least. Protecting the environment is important, but it must be done correctly and not increasing poverty, which is a risk of a knee-jerk reaction and applying these regressive policies. We can prevent this above issue by taking the long-term view and act now in a sensible and sustained manner. Going back to the great lady I mentioned at the start, I'll now read out the whole quote which should guide us. "We are not merely friends of this earth. We are its guardians and trustees for generations to come. The core of conservative philosophy and for the case for protecting the environment are the same. No generation has a freehold on this earth. All we have is a life tenancy and a full repairing lease." Mrs. Thatcher said that in 1988. prior to becoming the first world leader to speak at the UN on climate change. This council should intend to meet the terms of its lease, and I will support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Clive Jones. Councillor Rachel Burgess.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's clear we need urgent action at all levels to protect our planet. But in practice, where we are in relation to climate change is way behind. I'm sure many of us could stand up here and proudly say that we have used environmentally friendly toothbrushes and so on. Small actions are not unimportant, but it's clear that for too long, approaches to environmental issues have been about the choices made by individuals when much larger collaborative initiatives are needed. Some important developments can certainly be influenced by this council, such as removing this council's support for a third runway at Heathrow. Yet we still risk too much of our action amounting to just tinkering around the edges when we need fundamental change. I support this amended motion because it ensures the council will take concrete actions rather than just warm words and broad assurances. I welcome the addition of a cross-party working group and the involvement of our local community, whose input will surely be essential if we want to make real change.
Councillor Gary Cowan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It goes without saying that I fully support this motion. The one thing I must add is that at the very beginning, when our new leader made his inaugural speech, he recognised the problem and he talked about it in his speech. He also had the great forethought to bring on a new member of the executive in Gregor Murray to deal with this. I think they were signs of a very clear commitment on behalf of the council to move in the right direction. I won't go into the detail because we will deal with that within committee. I would say we need to make sure we don't cut down trees, but we plant more. And we need to look at various options, not just infrastructure upgrading, but where we can use carbon offset in our thinking. So there's an awful lot we can do. Some is being done now. Some, I think, is beyond our capability. For example, a new runway at Heathrow. I don't think it's something Woking Borough Council can do or stop, but there's an awful lot more we can do, and I do support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Paul Fishwick.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I support this amended motion. I take you back to 1992. 1,700 scientists around the world issued a chilling warning to humanity. The infamous letter declared that humans were on a collision course with the natural world if they did not rein in their environmentally damaging activities. Some 27 years later, the report by the Committee on Climate Change, CCC, Net Zero, the UK's contribution to stopping global warming, published on the 2nd of May 2019, was undertaken to provide advice to the UK government with respect to the Paris Agreement. The CCC concluded 4 actions in its recommendations. Number 1, the UK should legislate as soon as possible to reach net zero gas emissions by 2050. The target can be legislated as a 100% reduction in greenhouse gases from 1990 using the existing Climate Change Act 2008 procedures. 2, the target should cover all sectors of the economy, including international aviation and shipping. This must be considered when this council responds to Heathrow consultation. Number 3, the aim should be to meet target through UK domestic effort, not relying on international carbon units, i.e. credits. In other words, we must make the effort, not rely on others. It starts here, and Woking Borough Council must lead by example. 4, now is the right time to set a net zero target. It's technically possible, based on current consumer behaviours and known technologies, with prudent assumptions over cost reduction. For Woking Borough Council, The 2030 target is very ambitious, but we can't wait around as each day that goes by, more and more greenhouse gases are emitted into our atmosphere, adding to climate change. The Borough Council must consider systematically the climate change impact of each area of its council's activities, and it's very likely it will need to make rapid changes in policy, supply chains, contracts, and look at itself. Simple things like solar panels on its buildings, which we mentioned earlier, its energy supply, no one-use plastics, and how we all travel. Purchasing any item will have a carbon footprint. This must be considered thoroughly before any order is placed.
Can we just hold one moment? We have a point of order.
This is going to be a painful time, but consequences are even more painful. In fact, devastating for the world that we all live in. Remember, there is only one world, and today we have a 1 degree Celsius rise above pre-industrial levels. Ice sheets and glaciers are disappearing at an alarming rate. Rising sea levels with devastating consequences for low-lying islands and countries.
Councillor Fishwick, I need to ask you to stop. You've run through your time.
I've got about 10 seconds.
10 seconds?
Okay. Yeah, warming seas are causing corals to die, and melting permafrost has unleashed pathogens. The clock is ticking fast, and 2030 is only 10 years away. It's not a tick box exercise. I support this amendment, but I'd also call for, from the 1st of August 2019, every report...
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor John Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that this subject goes to the very heart of our humanity, as did the previous motion. I have children and grandchildren, and it's beholding on us to leave this planet in a better state for future generations. But will we give up our cars, our log burners, invest billions in new technology? I think we're going to be forced to. It's going to be very difficult. Dinosaurs were on this planet for 450 million years. We've been here for less than a million. There's one planet, there's one chance, and we must take these opportunities. And even a council taking the step like we're taking now, hopes the others will follow.
Councillor Pauline Jorgensen, we have just 2 minutes.
That's fine, I'll only take 10 seconds. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm fully in support of this motion. I would just like to add one thing. I would like a plea to the Council that when it's considering the carbon impact of anything it might do, that it also looks at the pollution impact of some of the alternatives. I would hate to see us jump to reduce the amount of carbon and increase the amount of toxic materials tipped into rivers and streams elsewhere. So let's take a full life view of the carbon and let's take a proper view of the pollution.
Thank you very much. We've got Sarah Kerr just very briefly.
Thank you. I welcome the fact we're debating this at Council. It's not a controversial issue again, but I want to be assured that this is more than just words on the paper. It's not going to be easy doing what we're setting out to vote on, and that can have to be some radical changes in policy. There are the simple things. Can I ask that when we come back, we get rid of these single-use plastic? They shouldn't be here. Sorry. But this is the low... Well, we don't get them in the opposition. Why is that? I'm not using them, I should point out, but they keep being put out anyway. But that's the low-hanging fruit. We need to look at the bigger picture here. Here's an idea, okay? I want to see the commitment from the council on this. There is a lady that a lot of you may be aware of who has an eco-friendly market stall in Woodley and Wokingham. She has a great business idea where customers can come and fill up empty bottles with her products. It's a fledgling business, and one that I hope grows. If this council is truly serious about fighting climate change, why not offer businesses like this free trial periods in our vacant shop units? Just a thought. You know, it's a very simple thing, and it would demonstrate that this is more than just on the paper. We do, though, need that cultural shift, and this is very similar to what I said in my equalities speech earlier. about when policy papers are presented, they only have the financial stuff on them at the end. So in addition to that and the equality stuff, can we actually have a line in there about the impact of every on every policy that we're proposing on the impact of the environment from next time we come back to council, okay? I welcome this amendment and I really hope that we can actually deliver. Thank you.
Okay. Can I come back to John Halsall, Councillor John Halsall, for a right of reply?
I think everything which has been said can be said, has been said. Thank you.
I'm afraid we are out of time, so that's why I had to go for a right of reply.
2 minutes.
Well, no. Sorry.
We will be voting for an extension.
Point of order, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor. I would say we probably are out of time as far as climate's concerned.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Gregor, did you have a, rather than, not on this topic, are you?
Mr. Mayor, I did have a right to reply, actually. It was me, not John Halsall, who asked for the right to reply,
we are.
if I may.
No, sorry.
Sorry, if he's got a right to reply, I've got a right to speak.
No, there are no rights to reply now. That's been done, and we are out of time. Thank you. Right, we now come to voting on the amended motion. Are you happy to vote on it, or would you like me to read the amendment? No? Right, those in favour? That it looks to me to be unanimous. That is carried. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Bowring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've got two motions to get through, and we've got a quarter of an hour at the moment, so I'd like to extend that to 3/4 of an hour if possible for 212M standing order applies.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder for that? Yep. Okay. All those in favour? Yep, that looks pretty. That's carried. Thank you very much. So we will continue till 11 o'clock. Thank you. We come on to motion 418, proposed by Wayne Smith. I wonder whether you would like to speak on it. Or do you have a seconder, first of all?
Very timely.
Do you have a seconder? Yes.
I do. Should I announce my seconder before I speak?
Yes, please.
Gary Cowan.
Gary Cowan. Thank you. Okay. Would you like to present your motion, please?
I will be brief. Probably one of the most emotive subjects for residents. So why the motion? We're not saying no housing. We have a proven track record since 2006 of building houses much more than our neighbours. We are committed to taking our fair share of homes. For example, we are currently targeted at building 804 homes per year. Reading, 631. Bracknell, 615. West Berks, 520. Over the period we're looking at the local plan right now, that's 3,000 lower. The motion is about getting the right housing numbers for us and for our existing and future residents. You can read the motion as it's in the book. I say no more, I'll just let the debate to start.
Would the seconder like to speak now or reserve the right?
I'll speak now, Mr. Mayor. For many years now, I've constantly challenged the housing numbers imposed on Woking Borough Council, which have never ever been challenged until now. The motion at last recognises the potential damage to the infrastructure by accepting the housing numbers without any challenge. I won't go into the detail, but my views are fairly well recorded over the years. Developer funding can never solve the infrastructure issues, as they will always be playing catch-up. More houses means more cars, more traffic jams, more pollution, longer waits for doctors and hospitals appointments, and less green fields and trees. I mean, that list is endless. Wokingham has delivered above its fair share of housing compared to its neighbours over the years, as Councillor Smith stated in his statement, and it is right and proper that the Council now has the desire to fight our corner and deliver what is a fair and equitable number, and this should be supported. I hope it's not too late to put up a vigorous fight to protect our environment, but I welcome any effort being made by this Council to achieve a fair and equitable outcome on housing provision. And for that reason, I second this motion, and I'm very happy to support it.
Does anybody else wish to speak on this motion? Right, so we have... We've got... Clive Jones. You have an amendment. Okay, do we need to listen to the amendment now, don't we? Councillor Ian Pittock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support what the Conservative ruling party are doing in challenging their own Conservative government. Well done. Sadly, the government's national formula for deciding the demand for local housing simply results in more houses being built where houses have already been built, especially given that developers are able to game the system despite the government being repeatedly told of the faults in the system. The large number of big houses that developers wish and do build at the expense of smaller homes means that the average selling price of new homes in Wokingham Borough is higher than it should be. The gap between this and the average salary in the borough is used by the government to determine the demand for new houses. The average salary calculation for Wokingham Borough is wrong. We cannot defeat the government's legislation. Instead, we have to play the government at their own game. And I do mean the whole council, not just the executive. And that's partly why there is an amendment. Ceasing to build so many big houses and addressing the existing and increasing shortfall in 1 2-bed flats, 1 2 3-bed houses and 2-bed bungalows would result in a reduced average selling price for new built homes, and therefore a reduction in the gap between this and the average salary, in turn resulting in a reduction in the government demand for new houses. So how do we change the types of houses for which we give planning permissions without constantly being challenged and losing an appeal to developers? Take the current government raw figure for the numbers to be built and specify this in terms of the numbers of each type of home that is actually needed in the borough, paying particular attention to the current shortfall in certain types. This is far better than leaving it to developers to translate the number of houses to the types they wish to build. And we take these numbers and put them into the local plan, specifying this site by site, stating the expectation for developers and residents. Building the right types of homes will reduce the average selling price of new homes, the gap, and therefore the government demand, resulting in us not necessarily needing to build all of those we include in the local plan in the given timescale. Good developers will work with us, bad ones will leave, or rather they will, once we start defeating them in appeals, which we will, given that we will be able to use the local plan. You can defend what is in the local plan, but you cannot defend it if it is not in the local plan. I wish to make it clear that the council opposes the housing numbers, not just the executive, and therefore I have some wording around that and also about the need to actually build what the existing residents actually need. Do you want to pass that round, or do you want me to read it out? You've got it. Okay.
Do you have a seconder for this amendment? Clive. Yes, Clive. Thank you.
When you've all, sorry.
Sorry, we need to ask the seconder to speak.
Yeah.
On the
No, if I accept it, I'm happy with this.
Oh, right. Does the seconder still need to vote on it, speak on it? Because we haven't had a debate on it, have we?
The seconder should have an opportunity to speak.
Yeah. The seconder. Can we ask the seconder to speak, Clive? Do you wish to speak on this amendment? No. Okay. So.
Yes, we accept your agreement to the amendment, if that makes sense.
Okay, so we had Carl Duran. Yeah, they can, it now becomes the substantive motion.
Right, so the amendment becomes a substantive.
Right. Yeah, okay, so do we need to go to a debate?
Yeah,
okay.
on the amended motion.
Yes. Okay. Can I call on Carl Doran to speak on the amended motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first paragraph of the motion sounds absolutely brilliant. And if the reality of our situation ever approaches it, I'll be the first to applaud. One of the main gripes from continual housing petitions presented to this council is that there is a severe lack of infrastructure. There appears to be a disconnect between what the council perceives the suitable infrastructure to be and residents' experience of that infrastructure day to day. No doubt someone will reply later that lots of the road infrastructure is yet to come, but we must remember that the current SDL plans have not yet been completed. More than half the houses in the current plan have not yet been built either. And when residents say infrastructure, they also mean such things as GP surgeries, something which we have absolutely no power over whatsoever. So why are we building so much when we have no way of guaranteeing that essential infrastructure? Wayne will remember from our year on the planning committee together my obsession with affordable housing. We have reached that shiny 35% affordable housing target virtually nowhere. According to the number of planning applications I've seen that report commuted sums for use in Gorse Ride, there must be around 50,000 affordable homes there now. It's not good enough. In fact, I support nearly everything in this motion, right up to the last paragraph, which effectively asks us to support the spending of £80,000 to get an answer to a question we already know the answer to. I just can't do that when there are just so many places that money could be more efficiently spent. I think the amended text improves it slightly, but there's still a point in there that by whatever means the executive has at its disposal, and that to me means a waste of £80,000.
Thank you very much. Councillor Andy Croy.
Are you sure? Thank you very much. I mean, twice this evening I've had questions or chances to speak denied to me, so thank you very much for giving me the chance right now. But both my question and the comment I wanted to make earlier were related to Heathrow Airport, and Heathrow Airport is actually relevant to this motion as well. At the moment, the council supports the third runway at Heathrow. Now, this is important for housing because Heathrow is a major driver of economic growth in the Thames Valley. And it's that economic growth in the Thames Valley which has attracted tens and tens of thousands of people to the borough over the last 40, 50, 60 years. So while the council supports the expansion of Heathrow on the one hand and is claiming to be against the increased housing numbers on the other hand, you've got a policy disconnect. So I'd like to use this to ask John again, will the council change its policy on supporting the third runway at Heathrow? It works for this policy. And we're all against too much housing in the borough. It also works for the climate change policy. As Carl's mentioned, the amendment, I'm very happy with the amendment because a big problem we had was the idea that the council would be to support the executive. Our job as a body of councillors is to hold the executive to account. We're not some sort of clapping seals that would cheer everything we do. We're supposed to challenge them. Now, and that can be a friendly challenge, which you'd get from the Conservative group, and perhaps a more hostile challenge from us over here. But we're there to challenge the executive, and I'm pleased that this takes out mention of the executive. as Carla said, we can't support this because of the carte blanche that this motion gives. We cannot justify, as Carl said, spending all this money to receive answers to a question that we already know the answer to. We've just had the local plan consultation. I think the top 3 or 4 items on that consultation were related to overdevelopment. Why do we need to spend £80,000 to discover this? The Conservative group lost a member, a senior and respected member of their group, to an independent whose only policy was no housing. We've had thousands and thousands and thousands of signatures on petitions to say we don't want any housing. All of our members of parliament know we've got too much housing. But for some reason, we have to magic £80,000 from nowhere to ask the same question again. Okay? And it's for that reason that we won't be supporting this motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The Liberal Democrat group supports the Council's efforts to persuade the government to reduce Wokingham Borough's housing allocation. We may have some qualms about the way the Council has sought to win public support for its approach, but we are in complete agreement with the objective. Our support should not be surprising. We called for a review of the housing allocation as long ago as early 2017, and we launched an online petition on this subject in January of this year. The motion correctly identifies the nub of the problem. The government is trying to impose a rate of new build that greatly exceeds local need. There is, of course, a clear and well-evidenced need for some additional housing, especially lower-priced accommodation within settlements and near public transport hubs, which will help younger people to get on the property ladder. But the scale of the development that the government seeks is far too great for our borough to absorb without causing major problems. The stakes are high. If we do not persuade the government to think again, we will be obliged to plan for a rate of new housing growth that far exceeds anything we've experienced in the past. The pressure on local infrastructure, the road network, schools and doctors' surgeries will prove impossible to bear, even with improvements paid for by developers. The character of existing towns and villages will change beyond all recognition. In my own area, we are particularly concerned about the threat of large-scale housing in the Green Belt in Ruscombe. The Green Belt should be safe from new housing, especially this particular stretch of Green Belt with its long-distance views across flat agricultural land, the open character of which would be undermined by any new dwellings and attempts to screen them. Many of us believe that the Green Belt is there for a good reason, and we will do all we can to prevent its desecration. I am hopeful that we will still be able to save the Green Belt even without a reduction in Wokingham Borough's housing allocation. But if we secure that reduction, the pressure on unsuitable sites will undoubtedly ease. I urge colleagues across the council chamber to support this motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stuart Munro.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I shall be brief because I think we're all massively in agreement with each other. I just wanted to say that, as Councillor Croy said, we have had lots of indications from our residents that they're against the effect of the housing, which is going to carry on because there's lots of approvals to finish anyway. The big deal, as everybody has said tonight, is getting the infrastructure catch-up. Of the local plan update meetings, hundreds of people came with the same thing. Just enough is enough. And therefore, I completely support this motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gary Cowan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. If we're talking about the amendment to the motion, I assume we are, proposed by Councillor Pittock, I would make an observation. The word council instead of the executive, I'm very, very comfortable with. I don't see a problem with that. But to agree to ensure what is actually built means the needs to meet the needs of existing residents, I have a big difficulty with, because you don't build new houses to meet the needs of existing residents. You build new houses to meet the needs of new residents. And the planning law directs you in that direction. Developers will not fund a backlog or a shortage in infrastructure that's already there. So in a way, I don't agree with that particular sentence unless Councillor Smith is happy with it. I think Councillor Ferris summed it up very, very well. And I would add that as we go forward with the local plan, there will be more consultation and eventually a public inquiry. The way to deal with ensuring we meet the needs of existing residents is through the climate emergency policy and carbon offsetting. We can't meet it through planning and using new development to solve old problems. It doesn't work that way, I'm very sorry to say.
Thank you very much. Councillor John Kaiser.
I agree with Gary. I mean, to be quite honest with you, we're not meeting the needs of our residents. I live in Arborfield. Gary's a ward member for Arborfield. There was never a need in Arborfield for 3,200 houses. There's only 1,800 residents there. So we're not meeting the need. We're meeting the need from outside the borough. And I think it's very important that we concentrate on delivering the type of homes that our people need, which are 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, small starter homes. Developers are not interested in those sort of houses because there's no money in it. They want to build the biggest houses that they possibly can. We now see the SDLs beginning to stall. And the reason they're beginning to stall, because they're building 4, 5, 3-bedroom houses in excess of £500,000. And we've got a big problem coming up. And to go forward with a local plan with more SDL creep, because that's what this is. If you look at Shinfield was promised 2,200 houses. I think they're now up to 3,200 houses. If we're not careful, our residents will stop trusting us. So I support this.
Councillor Charlotte Haytham-Taylor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to start by thanking Councillor Smith for bringing the original motion here tonight. I represent a ward that has seen the village of Shinfield double in size. Residents have seen more change in one lifetime than in any other period of history. Simply put, the cost to existing residents is too high. They've lost so much green space. They sit in queuing traffic day in, day out. They wait 6 months for a GP's appointment, and they live with diggers at the bottom of their gardens, digging 6 days a week. I fully support new homes and infrastructure in our borough, and in particular those that are affordable, but cannot support the current housing numbers imposed upon us by central government. These numbers are not driven by local demographics and have no impact on reducing the house prices locally, which are on average 10 times the average salary. By accepting these overinflated numbers, we risk the long-term decimation of our borough, loss of economic prosperity, loss of productivity, and future generations will look back and question why we allowed this to happen on our watch. Therefore, I urge all members, right across all parties, to support this motion tonight.
Thank you very much. Lindsay Ferris, please.
Thank you. It's very interesting because in early 2017, we put a manifesto together called Homes for Local People. And that is where we pushed 1, 2 and 3 bedroom properties for local people and 1 or 2 bedroom bungalows for older people to move into. I'm very pleased just listening to John Kaiser's words, almost echoing what we proposed over 2 years ago. We cannot carry on taking the numbers that are being proposed by the government on us. We've already taken 13,500 plus, and we don't seem to be taking any account of that, and it's a 30% growth from now to 2036. 30%. Where do we put them? What do we do? We have to stand and fight now, because if we don't do it now, it's the issue we have with climate change Our green spaces will be gone, the reason lots of people come here, and how on earth are we going to meet a 2030 climate target when we've had X thousand extra houses plonked on us? The point that Ian made at the beginning of the amendment is that we can modify the numbers to some extent by going for the houses that our young people need. They cannot afford to live in this area. I had a neighbour with 3 children living into their 30s, 35 I think was one, before they could even get a one-bedroom flat. And we have to make sure that our local people, we are Wokingham Borough Council, our first priority are our residents, hence the amendment. It is our residents who come first. And we have to make sure that we protect our area as best we can. We provide those homes that are needed, and that's what we focus on. And the consultation, I have always supported it. It is a cross-party consultation. That need to make clear that. And we agree, and we feel that this is the time. And I am more than prepared to go to the House of Commons with the leader to present the case for keeping the housing numbers under control. Because if we don't, well, it will be ruined. And it is upon us, and now is the time to fight. And if we don't, that's too late. And that's where I want to say on the issue. Thank you.
Councillor Charles Margetts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was some talk earlier about the cost of the consultation. I think from experiences in my ward, I wanted to just put another side of the argument. Myself and Councillor Sargent have been, for 3 years, helping local residents fight a housing proposal from Gladmans on the field at St Martin's. Now, fortunately, this council turned that down. We went to appeal. Fortunately, we won. The officers who were involved in that application told us that the total cost of that appeal to the council in terms of QCs, legal time, preparation, officers' hours was around £100,000. I'm currently involved with another group of residents in Finch Hampstead on Johnson Drive, where some land there, basically next to their houses, has had 3 planning applications in 4 years, all of which have been turned down by this council. And on 3 occasions, the council has again been taken to appeal by the developer. The first time, the developer lost. The second time, the developer withdrew on the steps of the appeal court. The third time, basically, is coming up in October this year. So the cost of these applications is a significant drain on the taxpayer purse, and I will support any measure that puts pressure on central government to make it easier for us to defend our housing numbers and keep the situation under control.
Does anybody else wish to speak on this? Yep, Clive Jones, councillor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. There is no doubt that that housing numbers have been a big issue in the borough for several years. This motion failed to mention that there's a chronic shortage of the right types of homes. But I'm really pleased that there is now agreement with the Liberal Democrats that we need to have 1 and 2 bedroom properties for younger people and 1 and 2 bedroom bungalows for older people who want to downsize and stay in the borough. The motion does mention a target of 35% for affordable housing. If only. When did the council last achieve this? Developers will always find a reason why they can't provide 35% affordable housing. The council always agrees with them. When is this going to stop? And when will the borough provide more affordable housing? Back in 2016, someone, probably from this group of councillors here, leaked to me 6 pages of a Wokingham Borough Council document asking the government for £250 million of upfront funding for a 15,000 home garden settlement in Graiseley. This had been a secret document worked on by a few Conservative councillors and officers from the council. the majority of the Conservative councillors didn't even know about it, including some of the senior executive members. Lindsay and I revealed the existence of the document that had been leaked to me, to residents and to the press. The public were absolutely appalled that this had been hidden from them by this Conservative council and by the government, especially when they found out that other councils who were asking for this money had told their residents what they were doing. Residents told us that the Graiseley development and thousands of other new homes in Twyford, Barkham and Shinfield would create so much more traffic congestion and cause difficulty with getting appointments at doctors' surgeries and in local hospitals. And when the local Conservatives finally woke up to this serious problem and realised that their Conservative government wasn't listening to them, they said enough is enough. But if they really believe that enough is enough, why are they still going full steam ahead with the Graiseley project? They can't blame Graiseley on the Conservative
Jones,
government.
you're actually out of time, so fine, thank you very much.
Okay.
Councillor Wayne Smith, as a proposer, would you like to reply?
Yeah, thank you. To take on the points that was mentioned, I think that it would be appropriate in the last paragraph of the amendment, the text, the needs of residents rather than existing residents. So we remove the word existing.
We would have to propose that as an amendment, and we would then have to debate that, I would think.
I propose it as an amendment to the amendment.
You can't amend an amendment. You have to pass the first amendment and then you can amend the new document.
So what's the amendment that you want to put forward exactly?
The one that I've just said, it does. I mean, it covers all the needs of residents.
Covers all the needs of residents.
Take the word existing out.
Take the word existing out.
Sorry, point of order. Wayne actually said he was happy to support it, and I stood up and said I accepted it. And that is where we were, and we just had a debate on the amendment as the motion as amended, and I don't think it is possible to amend at the end. I understand the words that Gary has made, but our main emphasis is to, as Wokingham Borough Council, is to deal with our existing residents. So I would object to that.
Because it was the substantive motion, so an amendment can be put forward to a substantive motion. Because it was accepted by Wayne, it became a substantive motion.
Right, okay, so an amendment can be put towards it.
Yeah. Because that's...
Right.
Just explain that.
That isn't it, a substantive motion, and an amendment to the substantive motion can be put forward. So your amendment would stand.
And that's what I would like.
Yeah, it needs to be seconded. Yes, seconded by Pauline Augustin. Yeah. So...
Is that an amendment of amendment of amendment?
No, it's not.
The thing is that we've just agreed already. But so, if Wayne had said I've got an issue with existing, we would have discussed it.
I'm not sure it is a point of order, but I'll try anyway. Surely the view of whether you can amend a motion is the Democratic Services view, not the view of various councillors in the chamber.
Because the amendment was accepted by Wayne, it then became the substantive motion, on which case an amendment could be made to it. So an amendment has been made to a substantive motion.
Mr. Mayor, surely we have not voted on the amendment? No, on any amendment. May the amendment be put, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, can we just hold on a moment? We'll take it from the Democratic Services.
Just to clarify, because it was the substantive motion, because Wayne accepted the amendment, there was no need to vote on it at that point. There will be a vote on the motion, but Wayne has now put forward an amendment which will be voted on. He's put forward a further amendment.
Surely, Mr Mayor, we have not voted on the original amendment. We need to.
So,
it's rubbish.
Sorry,
Mr Mayor,
sorry, we're going round in circles here. We're going round in circles. I feel
I've spoken to my group, and will accept the amendment to the amendment to the amendment and remove and remove the word existing, because I think the tone of it is still important.
Can we go to the vote now, please, Mr Mayor?
Can we go to a...
Can I... Just one more point. What the hell are we voting on? I honestly don't know. Can somebody explain it to me?
Read the last paragraph. This is what we will be voting on. The Council opposes any housing need calculation over and above the demographic growth by whatever means the Executive has at its disposal, and agrees to ensure that what is actually built meets the needs of residents. Okay? Right. Can we vote? Do we need a seconder for that?
I need to read out the names, do I?
Yep.
Do I need to read out the names?
Yeah. Do we have a seconder for a named vote? Yes. Yep.
Mr Mayor, we've had 30 minutes plus on this.
Yeah,
this should go straight to the vote now. There is no time. 30-minute limit on motion.
Yeah. Okay. What do you want to do?
Their own group is saying go to the vote.
Right, we will go to the vote.
Yes.
Those all in favour of the substantive motion? You're voting on the substantive motion, as I have read.
The one that you just read out.
Yes. Those in favour, please show. Those against? Those abstaining? 5 abstaining. That's carried. Thank you. Come on to vote to motion 419. The proposer is Keith Baker. Do you have a seconder?
Yes, I do.
And the seconder is?
Councillor Blumenthal.
Laura Blumenthal. Thank you very much. Would you like to speak on the motion? Yes. Thank you.
I would like to move an amendment to the motion now that it's been proposed and seconded. Thank you. Yes, I can.
Excuse me, Democratic Services know more than you.
Once it's proposed, then you can make an amendment to it, but the proposal's down.
And it's been proposed and seconded.
He hasn't presented it, has he? Sir Baker.
Right. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Since this motion was published, I have been the victim of abuse on social media and a newspaper website. I've been called the C word, a total tit, and accused of racism.
Councillor Croy made a proper proposal for an amendment to a motion that was proposed and seconded, and I believe he should be heard. Otherwise, we're not acting democratically.
This is...
Yes, the opportunity to propose his motion has not been made yet, so that's what he's doing at the moment. Having made that proposal, then you can ask for the amendment.
Absolutely. No. isn't been proposed.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. I believe that this is filibustering, so we do not get to this motion.
That's right.
He cannot talk until the motion has been proposed and seconded. Once it's been proposed and seconded, it can be amended.
Yes, he has 5 minutes to propose it. Thank you. Baker.
Thank you. I'll start again. I've been a victim of abuse on social media and newspaper website. I've been called the C word, a total tit, accused of racism. On Facebook, my motion has been called a vile, disgusting political suggestion by a local politician from a well-known Labour activist. That same individual also called it a disgusting attack. Another post called me a nasty little shit. Another well-known Labour supporter posted that I was trying to distract the widespread racism and discrimination in his own party. If this is what these activists throw at me because of this motion, I shudder to imagine what is thrown at the Jewish community and others who do not fit into their world. This motion was submitted in May, and a lot has happened in between, culminating in the damning Panorama report on anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, drawing personal attacks on the whistleblowers. Even the deputy leader of the Labour Party, Tom Watson, deplored the response from his party on the Panorama programme, saying dismissing the testimony of the staff was wrong. This was closely followed by more resignations by some Labour peers. The other day, an advert was placed by 67 Labour peers, a third of all Labour peers in the House, accusing the Labour leader of failing to tackle anti-Semitism. May I remind you that the Equality and Human Rights Commission have opened a formal investigation into whether the Labour Party has unlawfully discriminated against, harassed or victimised people because they are Jewish. This is only the second time since the Commission was created that a political party has been investigated. Labour have now joined BNP as the only other party investigated. No matter how you look at this, the Labour Party has a problem. You can try and cover it up through personal attacks on me or my party, but it still remains an issue. You do not see the other political parties having allegations of anti-Semitism appear almost daily. You do not see deputy leaders deploring what is going on in their parties around anti-Semitism. You do not see other political parties being investigated by the Equality and Human Rights Commission. Finally, I'd like to read out the words of a former Reading Labour activist who posted, "I have been affected in that the issue made me leave the Labour Party. Whatever Keith Baker's motivation here, the correct response by the Labour group would to be seize this opportunity to demonstrate that they too are on the right side. History in the long term and the EHRC in the short term will judge them if not." Sadly, and this is what he said, not me, Andy Croy's response seems to suggest that he might miss this opportunity to be the bigger man. This is not me saying it, it is one of the former Labour activists saying it. So I hope the Labour group will prove him wrong and support this motion. I urge all members to do so.
A point of personal explanation. Without looking at our amendment, you have got no idea at all what we are planning to do. You have a well-intentioned, I believe, motion. Our amendment would have made it much, much stronger in terms of its opposition to anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism has been tacked onto the back of yours. We would have also extended it to make it much wider to include other hate crimes. So please don't presume to tell me what I think about anti-Semitism or racism.
I'm sorry, can I ask you to cease? And we need to go straight to a vote. It's got to 11 o'clock.
Hand up, 5. Come on.
Sorry.
5.
Let's
Can I ask for a recorded vote, please?
Let's get the amendment. Let's get the amendment out and see what the.
You can't.
We are out of time, and under 4.
This is not democracy.
Mr. Mayor, could I just say that I've received, I don't know what Mr. Croy said to me, but it was obviously quite foul language, actually, by the look of his mouth.
Can I just say, consideration of motions 4281. If the time of the meeting is due to conclude, be it 10:30 or 11 o'clock, a motion is under discussion. The debate of that motion will cease immediately, and the Mayor will put the motion to the vote without further discussion. So that's what will happen now. Therefore, if you want a recorded vote, we can do that.
We did ask, we had enough people asking for a recorded vote.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor.
So, could you please vote on that motion? Those in favour? Sorry? Oh, it's got to be recorded. Sorry, yeah. Can you, we'll call by name. Okay. Okay?
Yeah. I'm just going to go through this. Okay. Keith Baker. 4. Parry Bath. 4. Rochelle Bishop Firth. Laura Blumenthal. 4. Chris Bowring. 4. Shirley Boyt. 4. Rachel Burgess. 4. Jenny Sheng. 4. Ulla Corinne Clark. Stephen Conway. Gary Cowan. Andy Croy.
4.
Richard Delinsky. 4. Carl Duran.
4.
Lindsay Ferris. Michael Firmager. 4. Paul Fishwick. Jim Frowen. Maria Gee. Guy Granderson. 4. Charlotte Haytham Taylor. John Halsall. 4. David Hare. Emma Hobbs. 4. Clive Jones. Pauline Jorgensen. John Kaiser. 4. Sarah Kerr. Abdul Lois. Tahir Maher. Charles Magetz. 4. Adrian Mather. Ken Mial. 4. Andrew Mickleby. Stuart Monroe. 4. Gregor Murray. 4. Barry Patman. 4. Ian Pittock. Malcolm Richards. 4. Angus Ross. 4. Daniel Sargent. 4. Imogen Shepherd-Debay. Rochelle Shepherd-Debay. Caroline Smith. Chris Smith. 4. Wayne Smith. 4. Bill Soane.
Abstain.
Alison Swaddle. 4. Simon Weeks. 4. Carried.
Thank you very much. That motion is carried.